ya Dr. Gabriel ya.
Yeah.
Oke, so sekian terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So good morning to everyone. So I can just start, yeah. I think the others will come in. I just invited because I see there are still some slots for people to join. So I actually forward the advertisement to Faculty of Medicine to see whether people want to join or not. Okay, I hope that's okay. Yeah. Good morning. So I think I'll just start by sharing the slide. So I hope everyone can see the slide. So for this morning, we'll be looking at what is scoping review and what are the steps involved in creating a scoping review. And towards the end of the presentation this morning, we will also discuss some of the case scenario, some of that case study, like how do we, while we are writing for a proposal, when we're writing for chapter 2 in your thesis, how do we at the same time produce a review while we are writing proposal or your chapter 2 in your thesis. Okay, so we entitled the talk today on how to write a scoping review, but also this methodology can be used in creating your systematic review or your narrative review, but we'll go to that later on. Okay, so once again, thank you for inviting me to be here. So it's like going home, because I'm graduating from Faculty of Allied Health Sciences. They used to call it Allied Health Sciences. Now they dropped the word allied. Okay, but anyway, it's always feel good to come home to FSK. Okay, so it's like contributing back to the faculty as well. So my name is Chin Kok Yong, but then for you to call me easier, you can just call me Gabriel. Okay. So graduated from biomedical science program in 2010. So I see a lot of my previous lecturer here. So a bit about me. So this presentation is actually about sharing my experience to you. So sometimes there's a lot of our experience, okay, experience from our side. So the presentation itself could sound a bit I would say narcissistic. It's a lot about our experience, so I hope you don't mind. Okay, so I'm an alumni of biomedical science program. Okay, from FSK. I graduated in 2010. So towards the end of my degree years, during the last year, we were assigned to go to somewhere else to do our final project. So at that time, we have more than 100 students in the program. So some of us are actually assigned to Faculty of Medicine to do our final project. So I was assigned to lecturers in the Department of Pharmacology, Faculty of Medicine. And after I finished my FYP, I was offered a chance to complete the master in the Department of Pharmacology. So that's why I now in the Department of Pharmacology. After graduating from PhD and master, I convert from master to PhD and then become a lecturer in the Department of Pharmacology, Faculty of Medicine. So there's actually a lot of a few of my colleagues in the same department are also graduating from the Department of Biomedical Science, from the biomedical science program. So yeah, FSK and the biomedical science program actually produce a lot of noteworthy alumni, which service in many universities and so many departments, even within UKM. So I'm currently a member of the World Metabolism Research Group. So I think the number of publications that Prof mentioned is a bit inflated, maybe because of the record in ERAP is not always accurate. Yeah, because some of them are just abstract. So far, I published around 128 journal articles. Around half is review, half of them are review, 2 letters, 2 editors, 1 book chapter, and 1 book. Okay, so not reaching 170 yet. I hope in coming times, but currently I have 128. So currently I hold a few editorial positions as associates or academic editors in a few journals, including Medicine and Health, published by Faculty of Medicine, BNC Public Health, published by BMC and Springer, Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicines in Darwin, which I serve as academic editor, and also Journal of Tropical Life Sciences by Universities Brawijaya, Indonesia. So more often than not, when you look at the numbers of publications, you often wonder what does the number of papers, why are these number of papers are important? What do these numbers mean to you? Because with this number, it comes with stress, sacrificing your weekend, sacrificing after work hours, and also sweat and tears when you get not so nice comment from reviewers, you get depressed and something like that. So why are the number of papers, important to you? Because I believe that if we want to do something, okay, let's say we want to sacrifice our time to commit ourselves to writing papers and things like that, there must be a reason, okay, whether it's to achieve the KPI of yourself, to achieve KPI for the faculty, or to achieve KPI for the university. Whether papers are important to you to communicate to the scientific community because you have made great progresses in a certain field, because you want to advance science in overall, or you want to leave a legacy in this world. Okay, so finding a reason to motivate you to continue to write is very important, because the number game is very tiring, it's very stressful. So for me, actually, the reason that motivate me to write is actually to learn about a subject, a new topic. Okay, so while I'm reading, reading new materials and articles, I try to learn to compose manuscript so that I can organize my thought and also submit this manuscript to expert in the field so that I can get critical review from the reviewers. So this will certainly help us to learn about a subject, okay? Especially you want to start a new proposal, you want to start advancing to a new field. I think this is very important for you to write, organize your readings, and then write it down and publish it so that people can assess our work or assess our understanding. Secondarily, I want to write. The numbers are quite important for me because I want to help my students, postgraduate especially, and also have recently a few postdocs attached to our lab to achieve their KPI. It's very important because these people are very dear to me. So it's very important for me to maintain their number of papers published in every year, so that for the students, they can graduate on time, have no problem sitting viva. So for the students here, I'm sure that you are aware that if you want to graduate for master, you have to have at least one manuscript accepted before you can sit for viva for master. And for PhD, you actually have to have 2 manuscripts accepted before you can sit for viva. And preferably this paper have to be published or accepted in ISI journal if possible, with the new VC policy lah. Okay, more for postdoc. Okay, you know the postdoc have a very high publishing KPI. So currently I have 2 postdocs in our lab. So each of the postdoc have to publish around 5 papers. Okay, so that they can continue our contract in the next year. Okay, so it's very high. I should say it's a very high and very harsh criteria. Okay, so it is my duty as a supervisor to my students and postdoc to help them to achieve their KPI so that they can secure their graduation, they can secure their job. And also lastly, actually to achieve my KPI, not to say that KPI is not important, but KPI is very important to myself also. So I want to help myself and also my KPI, my department to achieve their KPI. Okay. So, but whatever the reason, okay, you must find yourself a strong reason to motivate you to write, or else the number is not meaningful to you. Okay. So find yourself a good reason to write or to publish a certain number of manuscript. So in this workshop today, okay, at least in this morning, we'll try to understand the type of review available, okay, in the literatures, and to understand the purpose of a scoping review. Then we'll try to understand the steps involving writing scoping review, okay, and learn how to convert literature review from your proposal or from your thesis to review papers, okay. So I understand from Dr. Norazia that there are some final year students here and also postgraduate students who are just starting. So for the final students and those postgraduate students who are just starting, I hope that you know that you can differentiate between reviews, paper, and also original research article, right? Okay. Original research article is you have new findings that has not been published before. So you create a structured way, a structured essay or manuscript to put forward your finding to the world. Okay, that is original research article. So you need to propose or secure grant, perform the experiments, get the data, analyze the data, and do some reading before you can write the manuscript or original research article and publish it. But for reviews is actually another form of manuscript where you summarize and critically appraise evidence that has been published, original research article that has been published by other people, okay, and try to draw new perspective, okay, on a certain research field. So in review article, you do not need original research data, okay. You don't publish your unpublished data in your review article. You review the data published by other people on a certain field, okay. This is a very the basic understanding. But then you also need to critically appraise. This is the difficult part, okay. This is often why people don't do well with review, because it's not just repeating what people have said about certain subject. It is about also to identify what are the breakthrough, what are the research gaps, okay, what are the more things that we can do regarding a research field. And this come from your deep understanding or reading on the particular subject. And this fresh idea need to come out or need to be written down in your review article. And this is where most people or most students cannot do well, okay, in writing a review. But nevertheless, that's why you are attached to supervisors, okay, which can help you in generating this perspective, okay. So I think we'll just move on to the first learning outcome, whereby we'll learn what are types of review, okay. So these are the four very basic type of review. We have narrative review, systematic review, meta-analysis, and meta-synthesis, okay. You'll be wondering why scoping review is not here, but I'll explain to you later. Okay, for narrative review, okay, narrative review is a comprehensive background of research field, okay. It actually highlights significant new research or what has been done on a certain research field. You also, by reading a narrative review, it will help you to identify research gap and inconsistencies in knowledge, okay. But the disadvantage is for any narrative review, if the search criteria are not being mentioned, okay, then it's very hard to judge whether a certain narrative review contain biases or not. If a narrative review is being written by an expert in the field, then there's less worry actually for the readers to worry about biases and also whether the authors are missing out certain studies, because we believe the expert in the field would know what is the important studies of the particular subject. But if a novice writer or a scientist without much background in particular research field and he or she would want to attempt a review, usually the editors of the publisher of our journals might question the ability or the credential of an author to attempt a narrative review, because the author might not have sufficient understanding of a particular subject. But it's not to say that we cannot attempt narrative review. Okay, so this review is actually one of the first review written by me for my PhD thesis. Okay, I was doing something on male osteoporosis. So from my literature review, I actually convert my literature review, chapter 2, part of the literature review, into a review paper named Sex Steroids or Sex Hormone and Bone Health Status in Men. And because of the subject, I think because the subject is quite general, the review was cited 41 times according to Scopus. Okay, so it's not to say that you can't attempt, because at this stage I don't think I can claim myself expert in the field as well, but I just need to find the right journal who can accept narrative review from non-expert. But even so, okay, if you are non-expert in the field, or if you are students, you want to attend narrative review, please tag you or yourself, please invite co-authors from expert in the field, so that the co-authors who is expert can review your manuscript and writing, give feedback, and also his or her name in the manuscript can actually add credential to your writing. Okay, and it's easier to be accepted by editors. Okay, then we have systematic review, which is currently quite trendy in UKM. Okay, systematic review actually is to provide a complete list of studies available and to identify and critically evaluate and synthesize all issues pertaining to a subject or to a research field. So in systematic review, as some of you are very familiar with, or some of the students might have come across or read about systematic review. So it needs a very strong framework to write systematic review, whereby these are some of the components that you need to mention in systematic review: your time frame of search, okay, method to search, evaluate, synthesize finding. Okay, these are, you have a very strict search protocol which need to be determined prior to your literature search. Okay, so some of the steps involved in the systematic review will be very pertinent to our topic today, which is scoping review, because we are adopting the same search strategy. Okay, we are adopting the same strategy in writing a scoping review, just that scoping review do not assess the quality of the literature. So for systematic review, you also need to formulate a very strong research questions. Okay, you need to create research questions, just like your research line. You need to create research questions. You set inclusion and exclusion criteria for your search. What are the studies that you need to include, and what studies you do not want to include in your review. And you need to select the studies based on a preset criteria, and then not SCC, assess the literature. You need to read the literature and then assess quality of research to see which are the good studies and which are the bad studies. And you select only the good studies into the final inclusions of the review and analyze, synthesize, and disseminate the findings. So this is an example of systematic review written by a lecturer in FSK. Okay, so this is written by Dr. Yap. I'm not sure whether he is here today. But anyway, this review is recently published in Science Malaysiana. Okay, so in this topic, Dr. Yap review about effectiveness of enteral immunonutrition on pre and post operating outcome in geriatric cancer patients. So this review title is very good because yes, the patients, okay, it tell you what kind of patients are they interested in, what kind of interventions, okay, in enteral immunonutrition, okay, and what kind of outcomes are they assessing, okay. So in as I said just now, systematic review have a very strict literature search protocol, and usually the search protocol and the search the flow of the search is summarized in a Prisma flow chart as shown here, okay, which I taken out from this review. Okay, so where you need to declare the number of references you obtain from each databases, okay, and the reasons of the reason or exclusion of these references, and the final number you eventually include in your systematic review. So this systematic I say is very good because it also contains quality assessment report and also evidence table, and this the Prisma flowchart, quality assessment table, and also evidence table are actually the essential item in the systematic review. Okay, so in writing systematic review, you actually need the research questions or field that's fairly matured, okay, with a certain number of evidence, certain amount of evidence, okay, before you can actually perform a systematic review. If you only have a subject with 3 or 2 core evidence, as an editor, I will actually give feedback to the authors that maybe this is maybe a premature field to actually conduct systematic review. Although I know that some in some of the systematic review workshop they said you can do systematic review workshop, systematic review manuscript for 2 articles or 3 articles, but actually it's from the editorial standpoint, it's actually quite premature if you have so little amount of evidence in the field, okay. And also we usually perform systematic review for human study, especially interventional trial. I'm also aware that in some of the review workshop they will say to you that systematic review can be done on cell culture studies or animal studies. But if you go into high-ranking high-SI publications, the journals actually doesn't look at systematic review of animal studies, quite not meaningful to some of the journals. Okay, so in this case, perhaps a scoping review is more relevant, okay, rather than systematic review. If the subject that you are interested in have not many human studies, but a lot of preclinical, that's the cell culture, and also animal studies. Okay. Then we have meta-analysis. Okay. So meta-analysis contains all the essential components of systematic review, and it's actually done usually after a systematic review. So people systematically search for literatures. Okay, they have a certain number of evidence or studies, and then they will perform after they gather the after they perform steps in the systematic review, they'll eventually move on to meta-analysis. Okay, in meta-analysis, it is one step further, okay, in the systematic review process, whereby they will use certain statistical software, for example, Review Manager, to perform statistical analysis in order to integrate findings from all relevant studies and enhance understanding. Okay, so since that you need to pull the results from many studies, this study need to be a bit homogeneous lah. Okay, there should be measuring the same outcome, generating the same statistical analysis. For example, they are all doing odds ratios, hazard ratio, relative risk, so that you can actually pull the statistical analysis of different studies using Review Manager, so that you eventually get a combined large sample size to judge a phenomenon, or to judge whether intervention is effective or not. Okay, so it can detect patterns in relationship between findings. Okay, and meta-analysis is actually of the highest ranking in the hierarchy of evidence. Okay, so for the students, if you have not come across the term hierarchy of evidence, you can just do a simple Google, okay, to find the phrase hierarchy of evidence, and you will learn that all the study designs, and you will learn your research methodology in your basic biostatistical class. Study type like cross-sectional study, case study, prospective cohort studies can be arranged according to their weight, okay, of evidence. And meta-analysis or meta-analysis of RCT is actually of the highest ranking in providing evidence on certain, to explain certain phenomenon, or to explain the effectiveness of certain interventions. So frankly, I'm not very good with meta-analysis as well. Okay, so this is actually also enteroimmunonutrition, probably somewhat earlier compared to the systematic review written by Dr. Yap. Okay, so you can see they will perform a systematic review first. Okay, so all the steps involved in systematic review are included, and then they will perform meta-analysis, and this is where they will combine, okay, the result from all studies using a forest plot, okay, and evaluate the results. Okay, so the diamond here is actually the combined effect of the 2 or 3 studies. Okay, and you can judge whether the studies is effective or not, and this is called a forest plot. Lastly, on metasynthesis. Metasynthesis is actually a non-statistical technique to integrate, evaluate, or interpret findings of multiple qualitative studies. Okay, metasynthesis, in comparison to systematic review, you can see that systematic review require numbers, quantitative data, but for metasynthesis, it is suitable for qualitative studies. I'm sure some of the lecturers here are involved in qualitative studies. I'm not really familiar with qualitative studies. Okay, they might be more familiar than me in metasynthesis. Metasynthesis helps qualitative researchers to identify common cause elements and themes in the field. Okay, so that it can help them to transform individual findings from each studies into new conceptualizations and interpretations. So similar to systematic review, meta-synthesis also start with systematic review of literatures. So after finding all relevant literatures, they will combine it and perform meta-synthesis. Sometimes a certain software like NVivo, Atlas are involved, and then the end of the result of the meta-synthesis is not a forest plot, rather it's a diagram of identified themes in the current field. So this is actually very suitable for those involved in social sciences, educational sciences, and also certain aspect of health, certain aspect of health science. Okay, where you identify certain themes that emerge from a cluster of studies. So it contains all elements of systematic review, and the forest plot is replaced by thematic analysis of the research. So before we advance to scoping review, just can I get a feedback from the audience whether you have any questions, especially from the students. Do you have any question regarding these 4 basic type of reviews? Okay, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to unmute yourself and then ask me directly. Okay.
Deborah, can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure, Prof.
I saw that the meta synthesis is real complicated to me. You have experience having, done this kind of review? Combination, yes.
Meta synthesis or meta analysis, Prof?
Meta analysis, sorry, meta analysis.
Yeah. So meta analysis is I don't really have the statistical knowledge to perform the meta analysis. Usually we stop at systematic review. But there are other people in the medical faculty or outside who are very familiar with meta synthesis technique or meta analysis technique. If you are considering having a workshop in the future, maybe we can invite them.
But needs a lot of statistical analysis, right? Yeah. Need the statistician to be involved as well.
Yeah, it's better to get a statistician involved in combining because you need to understand the basic statistical, the shared common statistical test used by all the studies before you can combine them. So it'll be a bit difficult. Like let's say you have you have few studies determining difference in mean, and then another few studies determining associations. So then it'll be very hard to combine these studies. So understanding their statistics will be required, okay, in performing meta-analysis. Okay. Any other questions from students? Please do not hesitate to ask, especially final year students.
Hi, hello, Dr. Gabriel.
Yeah.
Okay, can you summarize the difference between the scoping and systematic?
Yeah, I'm going to summarize it later on in this lecture. Okay, I actually prepared a table to actually tell the difference and similarity between scoping review and systematic review.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? So if nothing else, no more questions, we will advance to scoping review. Okay. I didn't list scoping review. That's scoping review. I didn't list scoping review as one of the major type of review just now because to some people, scoping review is a type of systematic review. Okay. Because scoping review would adopt many strategies, such strategy of systematic review. It's just that scoping review doesn't require a appraisal of the quality of studies. Okay, so why do we perform a systematic review? Okay, according to official words, okay, these three functions that I list out here are official phrases or official sentences put forward in journals. Okay, so people do scoping review because they want to map key concept in research area, main sources and type of evidence available in one particular subject interest, or people perform scoping review to synthesize, analyze evidence available worldwide. Synthesize analysis of evidence, a wide range of materials to provide clarity about a specific topic. Okay, the keyword here is actually wide range of materials. Okay, so your evidence are quite heterogeneous. And then another function to map evidence produced from disparate or heterogeneous sources, rather than seeking only the best evidence to answer research questions. Okay, so what you get from these official functions of scoping review, one is that it is used to map concepts or what has been done in the particular research field. Okay, second thing that's very important is that the evidence you get is actually of heterogeneous sources. Okay, in this particular research field, for example, you have sources from animal study, you have evidence from animal studies, you have evidence from molecular studies, or even in silico studies, and also you have some human studies, okay, to support this research topic. Okay, in systematic review, it's very hard for you to combine all these different experimental design in the systematic review. But in scoping review, you can. Okay, so in simpler term, scoping review help you to map what has been done in a study field, regardless of study design and the depth of investigations. Okay, so to students, this scoping review actually sound a lot like your chapter 2 in your thesis.
Okay.
So actually for students, especially the fourth year undergraduate students doing their research, and also postgraduate students, I argue that postgraduate students should do scoping review because they are exploring a new field. Okay, so there are not much evidence in the field. Okay, or the evidence is scattered. You are doing animal studies because they are only cell culture studies previous to research. Okay, or you are doing a human clinical trial because previously there are only cell culture or preclinical studies regarding a certain compound. So if the students are exploring a very new research field, you actually do not have much evidence to perform a systematic review, more so meta-analysis. Okay, so I will encourage students to write a scoping review to explore or to summarize the evidence from different experiments. Okay, it also, by creating a systematic scoping review, we also help the students to identify research gap to be bridged in a certain research field. Let's say you have summarized all the evidence of a field, and you found that most of research are dedicated to cell culture studies. There's only a few animal studies, then there's a lack of human studies. So perhaps the next stage, rather than to repeat the cell culture studies, your next stage in advancing this field is actually to go into a rat study of human studies. Okay, so you'll help the students to identify research gap to be bridged, and actually because of the lack of quality assessments, and it's less demanding in terms of time and also manpower, so it's actually it's more suitable for students to do in a short time. So just now there are people who ask about differences between scoping and systematic review. Okay, so the difference, there are certain differences in terms of their nature. First thing, so the scoping review is more exploratory. Okay, it's more exploratory. Okay, you want to just map everything in the field, okay, regardless of type of study, and also regardless of depth of investigation as defined by me just now. But in systematic review, it's actually more on validations, okay? You already have a lot of studies in this field, and you want to gather everything under one roof, and then look at the look closely whether this effect, this phenomenon is real or not, or whether this intervention is effective or not. Yeah. Okay. So the scoping review, the research question is quite broad. You are gathering everything, every type of evidence under one roof. But for systematic review, the research question need to be very clear. Okay. And for manpower, systematic review, well, for scoping review, you can write in one person, you can write, but then usually we don't recommend it, okay, because you always need supervisor opinion, expert opinion on that particular topic, okay. More than one is possible lah, okay. But systematic review one, you cannot do a systematic review one person, okay. You need more person, 2 or 3, okay. For quality appraisal, just now we have seen the quality appraisal table, right? Because we only want the best evidence in systematic review, okay. So low quality research are screened out, okay, and we don't include in the final analysis in systematic review. But scoping review, not necessary, okay. Let's say you have encountered and you include low quality studies in your scoping review. Maybe it's a duty for you to alert the readers about the limitations of certain studies, but it's not necessary for you to exclude them, okay. And the type of studies, actually there's no restriction about what kind of studies you can include in your scoping review. It can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, it can be preclinical, it can be clinical, it can be trial, it can be observational, okay. It doesn't matter, okay, because what you want to know is what you want to do is actually to gather all the evidence available in one particular topic. For systematic review, the systematic review that is of value to the journals, and usually it's human studies, either observational or interventional, okay. If you do a systematic review at animal studies, I'm sure certain journal will accept, but if you want to hit like Q1, Q2 journal, it's a bit hard, okay. But in terms of similarity, okay, we have both systematic review and scoping review need research questions, okay. They need a well-defined research questions. Both of them need well-defined search protocol, okay. And you need to summarize and collect your evidence into a evidence table, okay. We are going to talk about all these steps later, and both of them are not just summary of evidence or summary of past study. You need to provide new insight into what is happening, what can be, and how a field can evolve, okay. You need to give this insight in order for you to produce a good review, or to produce a good review that's valuable for readers to read, okay. I think before we advance to the steps of scoping review, I think there are some questions in the chat. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat, okay. So someone asks, her screen is blinking, that I cannot help, sorry, okay. Mushida asks, can you give example for each functions?
No need, because you have already elaborated so just now.
Okay. So
you don't have to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. From Dr. Razina, if we don't have a lot of research in that research area, can we do a scoping review? I would say yes. You can either write a scoping review or you can write a, how do I say, a research hypothesis. Okay, there's one type of manuscript which we call hypothesis or perspective. Okay, whereby you do not have a lot of direct evidence, but then you can still write a review, okay, out of that. Just for example, let's say because I'm doing vitamin E and tocotrienol and bone, okay, so I'm just use that as example. Let's say I do not have a lot of direct evidence to say that supplementations of vitamin E is good for your bone health. Okay, let's say there's no human study, there's no cell culture study, that there's no animal study as well. But I know that there are certain processes that will affect bone health, like inflammations, oxidative stress, and hormones. If I can show evidence, indirect evidence, that vitamin supplementation can affect inflammatory stages, vitamin E can affect oxidative stress, and vitamin E can affect hormonal stages of a person, and hypothetically it can help to improve bone health, and yes, you can do a scoping review, or better, a perspective paper, or actually a medical hypothesis paper on this topic. And there's actually a journal with the title Medical Hypothesis, which allow people to publish a perspective like that. Okay, it doesn't require a long-winded manuscript. It's just very short, maybe 2,000 words or 3,000 words. Okay, I hope that answer Dr. Razina's questions. Izatoshima asks, how do we assess quality of the studies of journals? Okay, so I think she's referring to the systematic review process, whereby how do we assess quality of studies in journal. There are actually published guidelines available regarding each style of studies. Maybe I will not put it here, but for example, clinical trial, you have JADAT guideline. Okay, for observation studies, I have Newcastle guideline for observation studies. Okay, for animal studies, you will have ARRIVE guideline. All these guidelines are actually quality checklists. Okay, and it is up to you to adopt this the item list in this guideline to help you to assess the quality of your journal. Okay, and then it's up to you, because I'm sure that every study has their limitations. It's up to you to select, how good, how many tick you need to have before you actually include a certain studies into your systematic review. But again, for scoping review, we don't care so much about the quality of the study. For Madhyati, how do you practically manage the team for the review? I mean, does each of the members read, analyze, later combine the evidence or one article we discuss, analyze together in a team? Well, we are going to discuss about this later, but it is better if each of the article is reviewed by more than one members of the team. Okay, you need for each article to be included in your scoping review or systematic review. It's better you have agreement of more than one, at least two or co-author. Okay, before you can include the studies into your scoping review or systematic review. But we are going to discuss about this later. For Asma, not Dr. Asma, okay. If in that particular research do not involve many human studies, can we do a systematic review of animals? I answer that later. I actually answered already, okay. So you can still do a systematic review of animals, okay. Preferably you can you also do a quality assessment using ARRIVE guideline. ARRIVE guideline is the same ARRIVE, ARRIVE, guideline to assess the quality of these studies. But I'm still doubtful that very clinical orientated journal will accept systematic review on animal studies. Okay, if you were to do a systematic review animal studies, please find a certain journal that can accept systematic review animal studies. For one example, I have seen Science Malaysiana publishing systematic review animal studies. Okay, so you look at the journals, which journal have published systematic review animal studies, and you submit to that. Okay. Anis, may I know how can we confirm the title on scoping review was not published yet? Like systematic review, we can check from the Cochrane database about titles of scoping review. So one thing that's why you need to do a comprehensive search on the literature first. Okay, so you need to go to PubMed or to Scopus, search using keywords and see what are the reviews. It's not just scoping reviews, but what are the reviews that has been written about the subject. Okay, well, you can check from the Cochrane database on systematic review, but some of the systematic review are not published in Cochrane databases. They are published in normal journal, and it is not found in Cochrane databases. So yeah, I think similar to systematic review, you need to actually go to PubMed and go to PubMed, Scopus, or WOS to search using certain keywords, okay, and see what kind of review has been written about the subject, okay. Even if there are a recent narrative review that's similar to what you are going to propose, it's good to have an idea how your review or systematic review or scoping can differ from the recently published review. Okay, if there is a scoping or systematic review that's published like within 1 year when you plan to write the title, which is very similar, I think it's not worthy to try that title. Okay, because eventually the question you're going to get from the reviewer is that how does your review is going to be different from the recently published review, as narrative by expert or scoping or systematic. Okay, from Asila, may I know which journal favors this type of review? It means scoping review. Okay, it's very important for you to know that not every journal can accept review. Okay, not every journal can accept review. For example, PLOS One only accept systematic and also meta-analysis. Similarly, Peer J also only accept systematic to meta-analysis, although I just learned that Peer J recently opened up review slot, but you need to apply from the editor. Okay, you just open any journal, okay, or any journal that interests you, look at their author's guideline, what kind of manuscript type do they accept. Okay, if they accept review, then generally you can send reviews to this journal. What kind of review? I mean, it can be narrative, systematic, or scoping. Okay, that's fine. But if the journal doesn't explicitly say that they accept review, you might need to send in a letter of request. I mean, to ask the editor whether I have this idea of a review, whether you want to accept or not. Better also if you have, let's say you have the title and abstract, and you know that the journal actually accept review, but you don't want to send your manuscript there and wait for 3 months to see whether the editor accept or not. You can just send the title and the abstract to the editor and ask, we have recently completed a review with this title and this the abstract. Would you consider this review in your article, in your journal? If the editor say yes, then you can just send your full manuscript or full review to the journal. If the editor say no, then you can just move on to the next journal. You don't have to wait for months for the manuscript to be on the desk of the reviewer, okay, and things like that. How can create a title? Does it need to be catchy or simple and clear? Okay. The title itself, actually, it become another topic. Actually, there are a few ways to create a title. We prefer title that's not a full sentence, first thing, and it can reflect the main components in your review. For example, just now I mentioned the title of Dr. Yap manuscript article. It consists of the how do I say? It consists of 3 things: the population of patients you are interested in, the interventions you are doing on them, and certain conditions of the subject. Okay, at least these three things should be there. And then sometime for systematic review or scoping review, you might need to put the word scoping review or systematic review in the title to reflect the nature of your manuscript. Okay, but it is actually entirely another subtopic. Yeah, it can be catchy, but make sure that all the essential components of the title, patients, interventions, and settings should be there. Okay. I do have some tips in designing the flow of the content later, but it's actually another talk entirely. But if we have time in the afternoon, I can share with you about my suggestion on the title. I actually have a slide for that actually. Shazawani, in your opinion, doctor, how many references are considered enough in making a review paper? So Shazawani, for scoping review or systematic review, to make it comprehensive, the core evidence, meaning that the studies you are going to evaluate deeply, okay? For me, for my practice, I'm not sure whether this practice is applicable for other people or not. 10 to 15, I think is manageable to students. Okay, if the student were to write his own scoping review or review in a time span of, let's say, 2 months. So, okay, I think 10 to 15 is a manageable number. 10 to 15 core references, meaning that these are the paper you are going to read deeply, analyze deeply, and draw out the theme. Okay. Of course, when you add things in introductions, you add things in discussion, eventually the references will be inflated to 60, 100. But at least the core references should have 10 to 15. Okay. From SKJ, may I know scoping review need to be registered in Prospero? No, you don't have to. You don't really have to register systematic scoping review in Prospero. The research question for scoping review need to be specific? No, you don't really need to be very specific in the scoping review. You need to mention a few, but not a very specific research questions. Okay, but you need to have a research question, but not as specific as systematic review, because when you go very specific, there are certain studies where you cannot include. Okay. Asila, Nadia, earlier you mentioned that we can do scoping review regardless of study design, quantity or quality. My question is, can we combine more than one study design and one scoping review to review? Yes, yeah. Most of the time when we write scoping review, we combine more than one study design. Because I'm doing a lot of studies, my research interest is actually on high dose vitamin supplementations and the musculoskeletal effect. So usually, let's say I do a review on vitamin E and bone, I would consider cell culture studies, animal studies, human studies, maybe in silico study if there is any, okay, into my review. So there's many study design combined into one review, scoping review. Okay, of course you have quality and quantity. For example, my collaborator just now is Dr. Aini here. Dr. Aini is not here. Dr. Aini recently do some research on perceptions of general populations on vitamin D supplementations. Okay, so let's say you're doing perceptions of certain populations of vitamin D supplementations. Sometimes people measure perceptions using semi-quantitative questionnaire. Okay, sometimes people do perception study using qualitative method. Okay, so if let's say you are doing scoping review on the perceptions of the general population, or actually of women on vitamin D supplementations, of course you can combine quantitative and qualitative studies into your scoping review. Okay. So Rabia asks about, when doing systematic review, if we forget to include one of the studies that published in that time that we choose, is it okay? I'm actually not sure what do you mean forget one studies that published in that time. Do you miss out the studies? This is a tricky question to ask. Okay, first thing, if you forget the study that you forget is very important in the field, and then the reviewer notice, eventually you need to include it back during the revision period. Okay, I'm not saying that you'll be rejected immediately, but then if the reviewer notice, then maybe you need to include it back later on in your revision phase. Okay, even if the reviewer did not mention, you can still include it in the into your systematic review during the revision phase. Just mention that we noticed a new studies during the revisions period, so we include it in these revisions. Okay, I think that would be the best answer. Okay, I want to say that if the reviewer don't notice, then you are lucky, but then it's good that you actually include. So okay, from Siti Fatia, have you done a systematic review or scoping review by reviewing on paper? Why not? Okay, I have written multiple times. Okay, because I'm working on vitamin E and bone. Okay, so I actually did a lot of scoping review on vitamin E and bone. Okay, during my student years. Okay, so most of the studies that we include actually are produced by our own lab. But this bring out another problem actually, Siti. So in your scoping review or your systematic review, if most of the study are produced by one lab or one department, okay, some of the reviewer will actually ask whether there are any bias, because all of the evidence that you include are from a single lab, while the other evidence produced by other lab are quite sporadic. Okay, would this cause bias? Okay, because vitamin E and bone is like the whole world, is not many people are consistently doing vitamin E and bone in, but our lab in the Department of Pharmacology, we are the one who are doing a lot of work on tocotrienol and vitamin E and bone. So apparently, most of the literatures on vitamin E and bone are produced by our lab in animal studies. Okay, so when we do a scoping review, what is the result? I mean, in the reference list, in the core reference list, 2/3 of the studies are produced by Department of Pharmacology UKM. So we have encountered that problem, and the reviewer actually asks, do you consider it as bias? Okay, but in doing so, if the reviewer did ask you about these questions, okay, do answer frankly that we do notice that in our research, most of the evidence are produced by a single research group. Okay, this might but this is how the reality is. Okay, so we acknowledge that this could cause some bias, but that's the reality okay, so and these are how do I say, this is actually a research gap so other parties or other researchers should also get involved in this potential research field and do more research. Okay, so Roberta, what's the estimation total article as final articles to be included? That depends on the field, how widely, how extensively it is being studied. Okay, I cannot tell you how many articles will make a good systematic review or scoping review. I have seen systematic review 3 studies, okay, and it got published. But sometimes I've seen people being rejected because the study field is not mature yet. They only include 3 studies. But for a good scoping review, from our experience, at least 10 to 20 lah, at least 10 to 20, so that it's manageable for you, okay, as a student to write it quickly within 2 months, okay, not like 50 articles, too many for you. And by, let's say the field really have 50 original research articles, probably someone have write review already, okay. What are the comments? Well, it's quite hard to think now, Asma, but I will get back to you later, okay. Sneeza. Sneeza, can we bring this, you mentioned that you do review on characteristic of obesity intervention studies among school children in Malaysia, scoping review, and any chance to get published, okay. Some journal mentioned that they gave less priority for local studies, right, in Malaysia, okay. I think I actually want to say that can we drag it to the afternoon to talk about it, I mean during the discussion session, but I'll say that if your studies is your review interest is actually focused on Malaysia, I think it is better for you to find regional journal or even local journal to publish. Local journal with impact factor, of course, we always aim for, as UKM, we always aim for ISI first, or ISI first, okay. So find regional meaning that Southeast Asia or Asia journal with Asia focus, or even local journal with Malaysian focus to publish your review article, okay. Outside Malaysiana is a journal with local interest also. I'm not sure whether it's fair for me to say that. Nanti I kena marah oleh Dr. Sibakis. But look for journal with a regional or local interest to publish your article, rather than international journal or obesity or something like that. Okay. So I think we have finished the Q&A for these sessions, not session, but this part of the literature. We'll continue with steps in scoping review, okay? So let me just drink some water first. Well, I hope all of you have had your breakfast, okay? You are going to sip some coffee or drink some water, go to the toilet. This is the time. Let's give you 3 minutes to do that. I hope the toilet's not too far, okay? Yeah. Have a sip of your coffee or teh tarik, and then go to the toilet first. Dr. Davinder pesan you need to bangun and stretch yourself. Don't sit for too long. You're going to get back pain later. So within these 3 minutes or so, maybe I can settle some questions as well. Dr. Radina asked about motivation to write. Maybe I can spend some time on this when we cover all the learning outcomes this morning. Yeah. Hi, Dr. Fadila. Nice to have you here. Siti Junaida, what is the difference between narrative review and scoping review? In narrative review, there is no such strategy, okay? There's no such strategy, okay? You just put forward whatever you want to say, without telling the readers, how do I identify these references? What are the keywords I put into PubMed and Scopus to search? What's the length I search from the I search from the inceptions of the databases until 2010 or 2015 or 2020. Okay, all these details are not covered in your narrative review. There's no session to tell about this. But scoping review, yes, you need to tell this search detail, okay, to convince the reader, especially if you are not the expert in the field, that your search are not biased. Okay, you derive the evidence or the pool of studies from a strict search criteria. There's no preference in selecting this article into your scoping review. So the scoping review that you produce is not biased lah. Let's say I'm producing a review of vitamin E and bone. So let's say my research is being sponsored by vitamin E company. If I were to write a narrative review, of course that I'm going to tell everything good about vitamin E and bone. Okay. So if I were to produce a narrative review, there's no guarantee that I am, I do a preferentially reporting. I just tell the good side of vitamin E, and I hide, and I purposely don't mention the bad side of vitamin E. Okay, that will happen. But let's say if I declare how I search, how I include, I do not intentionally eliminate or exclude the bad studies from my scoping review, this would convince the reviewer and the reader better. Okay, you are telling you are giving confidence to the readers and the reviewer that you are doing a unbiased review. Okay, so yeah, is everyone back? Mushida masih hilang dari kursi dia. Nice, thank you. Very nice word from Puan Asma, and yeah, from Dr. Nolila as well. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, from an anonymous user. One more question, please. We have PubMed, Medline, CINAR. Is there any minimal numbers of search databases that we should use to produce a good search? First thing, I don't encourage you to use Google Scholar, because Google Scholar tend to produce a lot of unspecific results. I will encourage at least 2, if not 3, at least 3 databases to produce at least a decent search. Okay, it should be always more than 1. Okay, that's for sure. But at least 2 or 3 lah. At least 2 or 3. Okay, most of the time the evidence is going to be repeated, or there will be duplicated references, but at least 2 or 3 to be comprehensive. Okay, PubMed and Medline is actually almost the same. Yeah, so perhaps PubMed plus Scopus, PubMed plus Scopus and WOS and CINAR, something like that. Yeah. Okay, so Mushida is back, so we can continue. Okay, so we are going to learn about steps involving in writing a scoping review. So this basically outline of the steps. Okay, so first step is to identify the research questions. Second, identify relevant studies, study selections, charting the data, collecting, summarizing, and reporting the result. And last step, optional step, is actually consultations. So I didn't invent this step my own, okay? They're actually from established protocols, writing a scoping review. So I'm going to go through one by one, and I'll give you some personal tips on each of the steps, okay? So first step, identifying the research questions, okay? So in establishing or creating research questions, do consider the scope of the studies, okay? About how wide or how deeply you want to explore, okay? For scoping review, unlike systematic review, you want a quite broad research questions, but not too broad, because if you make it too broad, you don't have enough time and manpower to execute it, okay? So something broad but not too broad. I'm going to give you some example later, okay? So a well-defined research questions, RQ research question, will facilitate your literature search and help you to structure your manuscript. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few example title. These are 4 examples. What are the health beneficial effects of vitamin E? Again, I told you this presentation could be quite narcissistic. So I'm using an example that I'm more familiar with. Okay, what are the health beneficial effects of vitamin E? What are the effects of vitamin E on musculoskeletal system? What are the effects of vitamin E on bone? What are the effects of tocotrienol on bone? What are the difference of now the question I'm asking you, what are the difference between all these 4 titles? Anyone have any opinion? You can type, you can unmute yourself and speak. Okay, Moshida, I can't hear you.
Yeah. The level of specificity, the level of the narrowing of the scope,
yeah,
as you toning down you more broad is a broader term for the first question. Second, it's more specific, and then it's become more narrower.
Yeah,
it's narrower.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Moshida, for contributing. Okay, so yeah, all of them are good research questions. Okay, all of them are good research questions. It's just that this is very broad. Okay, this will tell you all about the vitamin E or the health effect of vitamin E, which is quite broad. It will cover every diseases, contagious and non-contagious, almost everything. Okay, the second, we are focusing on musculoskeletal system. Well, you know that musculoskeletal system, you have joint, you have bone, you have muscle. You still have to cover 3 systems. And then what the effect of vitamin E on bone? Okay, so now we are only focusing on bone. And the 4th one, what the effect of tocotrienol on bone? So no vitamin E consists of few families, so we are only considering tocotrienol family. So it's as what Moshida say, it is getting narrower and narrower. Okay, you're correct, Far. Okay, so I will say that all of these are not worthy, not NOT, NOT. They are all worthy, okay? They are all worthy research questions. You can write about all these titles, but the question is how much time and manpower you have, how much effort you are willing to spend on each research questions, okay? And we have actually written something about these research questions, okay? First, you can see that this title, potential role of tocotrienols on non-communicable diseases. Okay, you know non-communicable diseases is every NCD. Okay, a review of current evidence. And look at the title list. We actually involve every department lecturers in the Department of Pharmacology, and also every students of me or mine at that time to complete this review. This review, if you search, okay, if you use open access, you can search and you can open it. It has 81 pages. I can produce a book for that, okay? And it took 1 year plus to complete, okay? Can you afford to spend that amount of time, okay? We are doing, yeah, yes, Moshida?
Let's say I'm willing. So time is not a problem, maybe now.
You mean for me or for you?
For me, probably.
Yeah.
So okay, to what extent we can polish up? I don't know, increase the quality, whatever.
Well, it depends on your purpose. For example, this potential role of Toko Trinon not on NCD, we are trying to bait citations. We are trying to invite citations. No, this title can be potentially attract a lot of citations. That's why we want to write it. And also, this title it actually can cover most of the research work done in my department. So it can increase the citation of my department members.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the purpose. Yeah. So we do it for purpose, and also this is actually a group project lah. Sometimes we propose a group project once a year to do. So this is our group project for like last year, but published this year. Okay.
Yeah.
So this our purpose. Although it's not a lot of sweat and tears, but then we still do it because that's our purpose. Okay. So the second one, the role of tocotrienol in preventing male osteoporosis. This is very narrow. From osteoporosis, I tone it down to male osteoporosis, and we'll only focus on tocotrienol. Okay, a review of current evidence. Roughly 20 pages. I did most of the writing. Took 1 to 2 months to complete. Yeah.
Why? How come? That's like 1 year because it's broader. This one is more focused, so it's like lesser time.
It's more focused. Most of the work are my own work. Yeah, and I'm very familiar with the topic because that was my PhD. That was what I'm doing till now. Yeah, so I'm very familiar with literatures. I'm also rushing for special issue because this is a special issue. I'm rushing for it. Yeah. Okay. So I choose a title that's very dear to me, so I can write very fast. Yeah.
Familiarity helps.
Familiarity. Yeah. Also, I write single-handedly, and the previous one, the NCD one, involved a lot of people, and also, a lot of people. That means a lot of coordinations, and you have to chase people for their part and things like that. They take 1 year. Okay, so it mainly depends on your purpose. Okay, what you want to write. Okay, so all the 4 titles I suggested just now, that not suggest but we have written about it. Okay, so all the 4 titles that we have proposed just now are actually all writable. Okay, you can write about regardless of scope, you can write, but in the interest of your time, of your effort, can you afford to spend this time and effort? If you can, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, produce a massive mega review. I'm sure you attract a lot of citations. Okay, if no, you only have, like, say, students, you only have 1 to 3 months to finish about 1 review. But choose a narrow subject. Okay, so the scope, the depth you want to do out, you want to explore, please, for students, please discuss with your supervisors how deep you want to go. Okay, in the interest of your time. Okay, you don't want to spend 2 years to write a review, then you don't have to do anything. Okay, so for students, consider your time. Okay, because you need to graduate on time. For lecturer also, you need to for lecturer, you need to consider also, you need to, for your KPI. Prof Park is still here. Your KPI is 4 papers a year. Yeah, can you spend 1 year just writing 1 review manuscript? Probably Prof Park will disagree. Okay, so the scope, there's nothing wrong. Okay, there's no wrong. I mean you can write as general as you want to be, or you can be as a bit narrow as you want to be. Okay, depending on the time and the resources that you have. Okay, so while you are doing your main RQ and your research questions, it can usually eventually lead to smaller research questions, which will help you to structure your review. Okay, so in this review that we published, you can see that in most of the review that I mentioned to you just now, they are actually scoping review. But then I don't actually write the word scoping there. Okay, it's part of my strategy lah, but then I'll tell more about it later. Okay, so in this review, our research question is, what is the performance of osteoporosis screening tool for Asians in predicting osteoporosis and fracture? Okay, this is our main RQ. But as you read the literature, as I read the literature, okay, several sub-research questions will emerge. Okay, like what is the performance of OSTA, this tool, among premenopausal women, postmenopausal women, or in men? Will the performance differ? Okay, so these are my sub RQ, and whether can OSTA perform better than the other screening tool for osteoporosis? Okay, these are my second RQ, and this sub research question eventually become the subheading of your manuscript, of your review. Okay, but please, you do not develop this sub RQ overnight. It's not like you are very clear before you even search the literature, you have already have all these sub RQ figured out. No, yes. It's not like that. Okay, they come through your reading. Okay, as you read deeper, more sub RQ will come out. Okay, you can write down and try to organize them, and eventually it will become the subheading of your manuscript. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So again, this the RQ development process is very dynamic. It's very fluid. Don't be rigid about it. Okay. I give an example. This is a review paper that is written by me during my PhD time, 2013. Okay. So as you read, your RQ will change. Okay. It will change when you do your initial literature search. Okay. When you first search through your PubMed and Scopus, and you see maybe it's too few or too many references, your RQ will change to become, it will become broader, it will become more specific. Okay, it will change according to your reading. Maybe what you read and what you initially thought is different, so your RQ will change again. And also it depends on number lah you search. Okay, so for this title, initially I want to write about soil and osteoporosis. Can soil consumption prevent osteoporosis? So I do an initial search. Oh my god, there's too many references. Okay, there are thousands and thousands of references. I'm not sure whether I can handle that alone. Okay, so well, I might just I think I want to change it. So I do a second search. Can soil consumption affect bone remodeling? Again, I do a literature search. No, there are so many reviews, even meta-analysis written about this subject. So maybe if I were to write a review, it might not contribute much to the literature pool. Maybe the reviewer will ask me, why are you still writing it? Because people have written about it recently. Okay, so eventually my RQ become, can soil consumption affect, the missing word though. Okay, can soil consumption prevent male osteoporosis? I look at literature. Well, okay, yeah, about 20 something references. I think the core references, I think I can manage. So I set this as my main RQ. Okay, so don't be open to changes of RQ during the process. Okay, during your literature search, don't be too restrictive about it. Okay, if you are doing more than one person, discuss with your peers, colleagues, and friends, co-authors. Okay, be open to change RQs during the process. What matters is what is finally published. Okay, what happened in between doesn't matter. Okay, be open to change. So okay, just before we move on to the second step, okay, we look at the there are some questions actually. So let's look at the questions. When you say review or current evidence, how current is current? How many years back? Okay, so current to the date of search lah. I mean, I'll say, let's say I'm writing that review in 2020. That is until I search until 2020. Make sure that you have enough references, the latest references lah. That is also a good point about scoping review because you declare your search methodology. So you are going to search from the inception of the databases until, let's say, May 2020. You declare as such in your scoping review. So people cannot, the reviewer cannot say, hey, I see this paper published in July 2020. Why you didn't include it in your scoping review? Well, I declare in my scoping review, I have searched until 2020 May. After that, I submit to you already. How can I include this in my review? But you can take that advice lah. You can take that advice. Okay, I will include these latest references in my revisions. Update my search up to July 2020. Okay. Samiha, I have a questions. Can I say it out rather than write here? Yeah, sure. You can write your questions.
Okay. Dr. Gabby, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Samiha. So I did my PhD, and in the initial process, or in the initial part of my PhD, I did a systematic review halfway, so I didn't finish it, just to look at the intervention that has been done to reduce pest power among children in the supermarket.
Yeah.
So I didn't finish that, and then I straight away did my what do you call that?
Research.
Like a first I cannot remember the word. So like an observational study. So I did 3 phases.
Yeah.
So now I am in the planning of writing all my PhD papers. So do you think I should write a scoping review paper first and then followed by all my phases papers, or do I straight away write my studies that I have done? Because the first part, it's called formative research. So the first phase is a formative research, and it is actually just to look at parents' perception on what type of intervention they want to do. They want us as public health researchers to do to help reduce pest power in the supermarket. So now I'm thinking, like, do I do my first 3 phases and then do my scoping? But then later on in my scoping, I will have to write in my first phase paper if it gets accepted first. Do you understand what I mean? Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm like
it actually depends. I get it. Yeah. So actually, it depends on your strategy. Actually, okay. If you write the scoping review first and then write your original research paper, it will help you to have better clarity on your introductions, on also discussions of your original research paper, because you will understand better what has been done and what has not been done. But if you write the original research paper and get it published and write a scoping review, then there's a chance for you to cite your own papers and increase your citations. And that's actually a matter of strategy. There's no right and wrong, actually, for me. But it is a matter of strategy, what you want to do. In the interest of let's say you're still doing PhD, right? So
No.
yeah, I would say that I would say that in the interest of your time, do the scoping review first. Do the scoping review, get it published. At the same time, while waiting for it to be reviewed or editorial processes, do your original research article, so that you can write out everything in time. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
The strategy is just to get you graduating fast. Yeah, because I think that's the most important thing.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay. Anis, how many references are considered too many? There's never too many references, but let's say just now the mega review that I showed you, 81 pages, it has 300 references. That's acceptable to the journal lah. But for mini review, I would say 60 to 120 is okay for mini review. If you are going mega, then yeah, you can go up to 300. Yeah. SKJ, who is SKJ actually? The research question for determinants of diet and physical activity in Malaysian adolescents is too wide scoping review. I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah. If you delete the word Malaysian, it's a bit wide. Yeah. Determinants of diet and physical activity in Malaysian adolescents. It's not too wide to me. Yeah. Delete the Malaysian, then it's a bit wide. Yeah. So, okay, so I think we put the question aside first. We continue to the second step. So first step, determine your research questions. Okay. Second step, identifying relevant studies. Okay. So this step is actually similar to systematic review, where you conduct a comprehensive search using electronic databases and also reference lists. While others guideline will also ask you to hand search key journals, but I'm not sure. In our case, I don't know whether we still have hard copies of key journals. Okay, that's questionable. But the most common is electronic databases and reference lists. And also sometimes other guidelines will also ask you to search for gray literatures, meaning that literature that has not been published, or guidelines, or white papers and things like that, policy papers, even conference extract. But for us, I think we focus on electronic databases and reference lists. I think these are the key resources area we want to focus in. Okay. So this is actually for the novice writers, for fourth-year students, and also for maybe postgraduate students who are just starting their postgraduate journey. First thing you need when you are searching, you need to differentiate what are databases and what are publisher website. Okay. If I think some people cannot differentiate till now. Okay. So databases are collections of journals published by various publishers. Okay, so in databases, in simpler terms, are like Google for scholarly journal. Okay, you know that in Google you can find resources from various websites, right? Similarly, in databases you can find journal published by various publishers. So some of the famous databases like PubMed, Medline, Scopus, Web of Science, Cochrane Library, CINAR for nursing, and also DOAJ. Okay, Open Access Journal, directory of Open Access Journal. Okay, these are all databases. Once you put in a keyword, you can access all, not all, but many of the articles published by many publishers. Some of the search results will be different because each databases index, the word is index, they only index certain journal, because to be included in these databases, the journal has to fulfill certain criteria, and the criteria are quite strict. Okay. So, but Google Scholar is also databases, but Google Scholar have less stringent criteria, or actually no criteria at all. Okay, so that's why you get a lot of, you will get most number in Google Scholar. Okay, when you search for a topic, but there's a higher risk for you to be exposed to predatory journal, not peer-reviewed materials. Okay, in Google Scholar. But in Scopus, Web of Science, and PubMed, usually you will get good journals. Okay, good journals that have done proper review and things like that. Okay. For publisher websites, okay, it's a collection of journals published by a single publisher. Okay, keyword here, single publisher. So all of you are very familiar with Science Direct, perhaps. Okay, for all the students. Okay, to you, Science Direct seems very comprehensive. Okay, you put keywords into Science Direct, you can get many things. Okay, but it is only limited to every journal published by Science Direct and Elsevier. The result will not reach. You cannot search result of journal published in Wiley and Springer in Science Direct website. You will not get that. Okay. So some of the major publishers in health sciences and medical sciences are Science Direct, Sage, Wiley, Springer Nature bergabung already, Biomed Central, Hindawi, and DPI, and things like that. These are publishers. So for students, I ask you, if you want to search a topic, would you prefer to use databases or publisher website? this question open to students? 1 minute to think about it.
You go to
Databases lah, huh? Okay, databases is correct. Okay.
Database.
Databases. Okay, correct. Huh? So you search databases because you can access more references. Okay. Full marks, everyone. Okay. So you open your Scopus and you open your PubMed or websites. What do you want to put into the search bar? Okay, you need to define your keywords and search them very carefully, and this requires some discussions with your supervisors or other cohorts. Okay, you need to put synonyms or similar concept into the search databases. The synonym or similar concepts can be found using thesaurus or mesh websites. Some of you may not be very familiar with mesh website. I'll show you later. Okay. So actually now, not later. Okay. When you put, because let's say I'm working on osteoporosis. Okay. If I just put vitamin E or tocotrienol and osteoporosis, my search result might not be very comprehensive. Okay. It just show me osteoporosis, but maybe it will not show me bone. Okay, osteoporosis is bone diseases. Maybe I want to include bone also in my search keyword. Okay, bone, inside the bone, it has osteoblasts and osteoclasts, which are the main bone cells. Vitamin E might also affect these main bone cells. So I might want to consider putting osteoblasts, osteocyte, osteoclast also into the databases. Okay, but what are the, but just this is what I can think of right now. I might have left out something. So how do I verify whether I'm not left out something? I can use mesh website. Okay, I'm going to show you mesh website now. So I will exit the presentations. So I'm currently at the mesh website. Am I sharing the correct screen? Correct, right? Okay. So this is actually PubMed. This is actually PubMed website. Here in PubMed website, usually you will go to, where's PubMed? Yeah, usually go to PubMed to search for literature, right? This is a PubMed, right? Usually you search here. Okay. But now we are not going to use PubMed. I want to use mesh. Okay, mesh is a collection of key terms in medical research. Okay, that's commonly used by researcher. Okay, let's say you put, let's say just now we mentioned about osteoporosis. Okay, so if osteoporosis appear, it means that this word is recognized as a keyword, okay, in medical research, and you can use it. Click osteoporosis, and these are some of the related keywords of osteoporosis. Bone loss, you can also put in bone loss or bone.
Bone loss.
Yeah. Not many actually here. Okay, you can just cross-check whether you left out any synonym or not. Okay. Then we do one thing.
Sport.
Is nasi lemak a keyword in medical research? No, not found in mesh. Okay. So nasi lemak is not a keyword, recognized keyword in medical research. So when you are writing your article, don't put nasi lemak as keyword. Okay. In writing your literature, make sure that you are writing your article you should put a list of keywords, right? Okay. Usually I would recommend the keyword not to be the same word as your title words lah. Okay. Use synonym or your title words put as a keyword. Okay, and verify the keywords using mesh. Okay, don't simply put anything like nasi lemak. Okay, it's not recognized by other people. Okay, also you can verify the synonyms here in your search term. Okay, so let's go back to our presentations. You can also identify synonyms or similar concepts just by a simple Google search or PubMed search. Okay, because some the search engine are very clever, so sometimes they can identify the synonyms or words with similar concept in the search results. You can also scan keywords listed in the articles to identify the synonyms. Okay, so I will expect you to have a few synonyms or similar concept words in your search, and you have to combine it with Boolean operators using and, not, and, or, not. Okay, and or is a common one. Usually we don't use not. Okay, when you enter Boolean operators into your search, make sure that the whole word of and, the whole word of or is all capitalized. It's all capitalized. Important thing, say 3 times. You have to capitalize them, or else the search engine is going to ignore your search of this word and or not, and or or. If you don't capitalize, the search engine will ignore. It will only consider if it is all capitalized. If we want to illustrate using Venn diagram, you put A and B. Okay, A and B also will only yield result in C, meaning that let's say you search vitamin E and osteoporosis, only article containing both keywords will be shown. Okay, it must contain both keywords at the same time, then it will be shown. If you use A or B, then everything will be shown, meaning that osteoporosis or vitamin E, every article with vitamin E will be shown, every article with osteoporosis will be shown, and the overlapping one will also be shown. So we'll get, so let's say A have 50, B have 50, you get 100 here, but you only get, let's say, 25 here. Okay, A not B. Okay, then only pure A will be shown, meaning that if you search article vitamin E not osteoporosis, so only vitamin E article without the concept of osteoporosis will be shown. Okay, but usually I don't use this okay, but there is a function not. Sometimes you may need to combine a few operators in your search. Okay, for example, A and B or C, vitamin E and osteoblast or osteoclast. When you put a bracket here, usually the search engine will process things in the bracket first. Okay, the search engine will process osteoblast and osteoclast, so you will find every article with osteoblast, every article with osteoblast, then baru combine with A and search what's in between. Okay,
Can you this
yes, yes,
I can't see this visual.
You can't see the visual. Am I sharing this?
No, it's okay. It's the lower bit.
This one.
Yeah. Can't see.
But maybe the visual is not important, but just
Okay.
just listen to me to my explanations. Okay, so with a bracket, the search engine will process things in the bracket first. Okay, let's say bone and joint. So you search bone or joint, you'll combine this first, and then the A, if the A is vitamin E, then the bond and the particle with vitamin E and bond or join will be combined. Okay, you can experience it with experiment it with your PubMed or Scopus search engine. Sometimes you need some special symbol, okay, to widen your search. Okay, they are different with different databases. Let's say this is mainly for students. I'm sure most of researchers would know already, but this is mainly for students. If you put a symbol, open and close inverted comma, you are searching for exactly the same phrase, bone density. So exact phrase bone density will be searched rather than bone and density, okay, with a similar sequence. Okay, so let's say I'm searching for vitamin E. Usually I will put close and open and close bracket vitamin E. So I'll only get vitamin E papers. Truncations, a star, usually a star. If you want to widen your search, let's say for you are not sure whether the keyword is search therapy, is trapeze or trapeze with S, no S, okay, or therapeutics, okay. You are not sure about the ending of the words, you put a star, so that the search engine will generate you trapeze, or probably pronouncing this word. This is called truncations, okay. So if I'm not sure about, I want to do osteoclast, I want to do osteoclast or osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, osteoblast, or something osteo, I'm not sure, I'll put osteo star, okay. So it will search every word start with osteo, okay. So sometimes it's this is not commonly used, but there is something like a question mark. It's a wildcard. So yeah, this is actually a question mark. Woman question mark. You get a random word, E or A. Okay, wildcard for one word. Wildcard for n number of words. You can put a hashtag. So it get you a variant of the word, okay, English or British variant. But these two I usually don't use, okay, because mostly the search engine is just clever enough to include these two variants, okay. So we don't usually have to use this wildcard, because most search engine nowadays will consider word variants automatically, okay. So in your search, you need to put your keywords, as much as possible. Combine the keywords using Boolean operators, and you might need some special symbol. Okay. Do you need a demo for this, or you can try it by yourself? Let's say we do a demo for this. We go to PubMed. This is mainly for students, osteoporosis. Let's say we put all bone. Okay, you can see the result, 1331928 results. So this result contains everything with osteoporosis and everything with bone, either singly or in combinations. Okay, if we change n, the result becomes significantly less, only maybe just half, not even half, okay, because if we put n, it requires the search engine to give you result containing both terms at the same time. Okay, that's why you get significantly less result. If you put not, even less, because it will only give it will give you result with osteoporosis but not bone. Okay, the result will contain literature with osteoporosis but not the word bone. Okay, so even lesser. About combinations, let's say we use combinations, vitamin E and osteoporosis. What else is related with osteoporosis? I told you just now, bone, osteoblast or osteoclast or osteocyte or fracture. Okay, you are using multiple related concept. Okay, this is what we call multiple related concept. Okay, to widen your search result. Try to have a wider result rather than a narrow results. Okay, vitamin E, what can we put vitamin E? We can actually put vitamin E or tocopherol, but I still need to bracket it because I don't want any vitamin. I only want vitamin E or tocotrienol. Okay, so I put a opening and closing approach of marks here to limit the search to vitamin E. I don't want any vitamin, just vitamin E. Okay, in this order. Vitamin E is related to tocopherol or tocotrienol. Okay, so I'll have this main concept, vitamin E, tocopherol, tocotrienol, and want a second concept to be combined with, which is osteoporosis, bone and bone cells and fracture. We put an N, so this I only want articles with these two concepts appearing together. And give you more specific results. Okay, and 980. Okay, so I think these are general rules that would be applicable to PubMed or Google Scholar or even WOS or Scopus. The same rule applies, but the special symbol that I introduced to you just now, they may differ according to different search engine. So if you are interested in using different search engine, you might need to look at the help of that search engine and look for truncations and volume operators in that particular search engine, whether there are any special character they are using. Okay. Also, we'll go through reference lists. Okay, we'll go through certain reference lists because sometimes your search might not be very comprehensive and you might miss some key literature. Okay, for students, when you want to first embark on a new topic, I recommend you to go through previous review or systematic review to get worthy references. Okay, and if you have already have a search list of key literature, read the studies you search chronologically, either forward or backward, and look at their references so you will not miss certain studies, because when a study is published, usually you will discuss the previous study in the discussions and you will cite certain previous references. Look at the read the discussion carefully to identify key references from past studies. Okay, read in forward manner in time or backward manner in time. Don't jump around so that you do not miss important studies. Okay, so we have other great references: policy papers, GCP, guideline, monograph, thesis, projects, reports, technical reports, unpublished data. but these are great literature. Sometimes they are not published. Okay, you may need some efforts to find. You might need to contact certain agency, university, libraries, and researcher themselves to obtain these resources. Okay, so sometimes we just stick with these two methods. I mean, searching online, electronic databases, and also reference lists. If you have the resources or energy, maybe you can look at these other resources as well. But you're in a hurry, I mean, you are forgivable for missing these great literatures. Okay, so example, emerging anti-cancer potential of selenium osteosarcoma. This is a title or review. So the keywords that you would expect to use will be selenium and osteosarcoma. Okay, Dr. Kok Lumpang is actually also alumni of Biomed FSK, graduating class 2011, currently working as a postdoc in my lab. Okay, so this is her wife actually. Okay, also alumni of Biomed. So you can look at the literature search that we put in the manuscript. Literature search was performed between this period, okay, up to 25th March. So if you have literature published after 25th March, if it is not included in your study, it is forgivable. Okay, but let's say your review is being reviewed by other experts in, let's say, June. You get a revision in June. Okay, comment in June. You might want to update it up to June 2019 lah. Okay. Using PubMed or Scopus, we are using two databases at the time. Using keyword selenium or selenite or blah 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 blah. Okay, these are all different isoform of selenium, organic selenium, and osteosarcoma. Okay, so declare the key concept you actually put in, and also examine reference lists of the retrieved articles, and the rest will be the search criteria. Original research article only, with the main purpose of anti-cancer effect selenium. In the end, we got 20 relevant studies. This is a short paragraph to introduce to the search strategy of articles. So you have time frame, search term defined, databases used, language used, and also type of studies included. We only included original research articles. Before we go to step 3, let's look at the questions. First, Asila Ahmad asked whether grey literature is a must in scoping review. I would say most of the article that we submit just so far they are okay with us skipping the grey literatures. Okay, but let's say you aim to publish a review, let's say in Cochrane, you aim to publish a Cochrane review, then maybe the grey literature cannot be skipped lah. Okay, but normal journal with less demanding journal, they are okay with skipping grey literature or unpublished data. Okay. Asma asked about her search thing. Asma asked about this search criteria. I think Asma, this question we can discuss in the afternoon, but remember to put I think the concept are being grouped wrongly here, because Asma, you put bisphenol and I think it's okay for you to just put bisphenol and big capitalized N in bracket testosterone, androgens, and steroidogenesis. You can also put the names of different types of androgens if that's what you want. Okay. PubMed will search the abstract title and keywords usually, or by default lah. You will search the keywords appearing in your title, abstract, and also keywords. Yeah, you can limit, Anani say about if the keywords give us too many results, can we limit the search within the title abstract? That is possible if your keywords are too many. Yeah. You can also use, apart from using Boolean directly in one line, as I did just now, you can also click advanced search in Scopus, Source, and also PubMed. It will allow you, then if you use advanced search function, there will be multiple lines appearing. So you can enter the keyword one by one using the multiple blank spaces and combine using Boolean that offered to you, instead of entering just like one line like what I did just now. That's okay. Okay, no matter. Hanani, how to report the literature gathered from past study reference lists? You just have to go through the reference list manually. You have to go through the reference list manually and state these methods of searching or gathering informations in your literature search paragraph. Okay. Okay, Toton Razia, see you. Yeah, Toton Falia, yes, or FSK alumni. Okay, Asma, I'll discuss again. Okay. So if there's no questions, we'll advance to the next step. Anyone want to go to toilet at this moment?
But can I ask questions? I'm Hanani.
Yeah, sure.
Regarding the booleans of like using the word not in the search term, is it advisable to use not in the level of title and abstract? For let's say I'm just focusing the studies for humans, so I don't want to include any animal study or other type of studies.
Hanani, as for that, actually I would recommend filter. There's a function called filter in PubMed and Scopus to help filter out, to help you to restrict your search to human studies or observational study or RCT. Yeah, there's a function filter there which you can use, but actually there is also functions to filter out review article to include only original research article in these functions using filter function in PubMed or Scopus. But these filter functions is not always accurate. I would say it's not always accurate. So usually I would recommend you to look at the search result one by one.
Manually, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Is that answer your question, Hanani?
Yes, because I have tried before this, and if I'm using the like filter or adding the not, sometimes in certain databases they restrict too much of article, which is I might overlook the articles now.
I have the similar. I share a similar experience, Hanani. So usually, I would recommend you just not to put the word human, because sometimes they don't mention the word humans in title or keywords or abstract. So I would say to keep it open. You might get 1,000 articles, but then just screen it manually, and then to get the article you want, so that you don't miss anything.
And one more question is it Google Scholar considered as a grey literature or?
The things you find in Google Scholar is it consists of many things. Good journal, predatory journal, sometimes you find thesis, sometimes you find blog posts. Sometimes, I don't know why, but blog posts are indexed in Google Scholar. So it's very hard to determine the authenticity of the sources in Google Scholar. That's why I don't encourage my students to use Google Scholar as a search engine.
Okay. So is it considered? How about the grey literature? It doesn't consider the Google Scholar as the grey literature. Grey literature.
Quite sure it actually doesn't. It doesn't count from where you search, but grey literature actually unpublished things. Okay, the unpublished results, project report that's not published in articles and things like that. Those are things you maybe had a hard time finding it online. You actually have to go to the databases of the particular institutions to find it. Maybe they are not in electronic form, also they are in the handwritten form or other form that's not available for search to the public. Gray literature actually says that actually refers to resources that's not open to the public to search. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Any new questions? ProQuest, means someone asked about ProQuest and Eric. I'm not sure what's Eric, but ProQuest, yes, ProQuest is a search engine, I think. You can cite great literatures. You can, if you can find it, of course you can cite great literatures. Yeah, you can include it and cite them. How do you cite that? Depends on the format laid out by the journals or the institutions. Okay. So study selections, okay. So you search already, and then you have a list of maybe 1,000 or 900 studies, okay. You need to establish a mechanism to screen the study, okay, to select the study you really want from that 1,000 or not 10,000. So you need to define your inclusion and exclusion criteria just like systematic review, but it's not that restrictive, the inclusion exclusion criteria. And you should allow changes to this criteria as you understand the literature better, okay. For example, how to define inclusion and exclusion criteria. For example, I'm working on title, vitamin E and bone. Again, okay, vitamin E and osteoporosis. This is, I don't really have I actually don't exclude preclinical or clinical studies. I will include everything. Usually that is the range of studies you want to include, okay. You don't exclude studies based on their type, okay. Quantitative, qualitative, preclinical, clinical, cell culture, or even human studies are all included. But as I read along, I realized that in some studies, they mix vitamin E together with other supplements. It becomes a mixture, and they use the mixture to supplement patients and assess their bone health. I find it very difficult to judge the contributions of vitamin E alone in that mixture. So after I read, I think I should exclude these studies using vitamin E in combination with other supplements, okay. So as you read along, you might develop certain exclusion criteria, okay, but quality of the study shouldn't be exclusion criteria, okay. So this is how you list out the criteria in your spring review. In terms of inclusions, for example, in this review produced by a PhD student that I co-supervise, it will consider any studies summarizing vitamin C and metabolic syndrome in animals or humans. So we do animal and human study. We include animal study and human studies. But metabolic syndrome is a physical manifestations of metabolic disorder. So we can't actually include cell culture study. That's understandable. And we only include vitamin C as a monotherapy or combined therapy, okay. So in these students, he actually accept vitamin C used singly or in combination with other therapy. The article must have the main objective of determining the association between vitamin C intake or its circulating concentration in blood and the risk of metabolic syndrome. And we only consider primary outcome. We also consider supplementation studies. Okay, this is intake, this is supplementations with metabolic syndrome as a primary outcome. Okay, so these are the example of such criteria. So using your predefined search criteria, you may want to involve 2 or more authors to screen the studies, either manually or through other automated system, for example, Covidence. Covidence is a website for to allow you to allow collaborative work in screening studies. I might not have time to go through Covidence with you, but just take note of this word Covidence and go to its website and explore its function later when you have time. But you establish a mechanism whereby 2 or 3 authors can screen the study one by one together. Okay. You might also want to decide how to resolve discrepancy. Let's say the 2 authors cannot reach agreement in deciding study A should be included or to be excluded, because one say no, I don't want it, another say I want it. So usually it's resolved through discussions, or maybe you want to involve a third author to decide whether the study should be included. Usually we start to screen the papers based on titles, then we look at abstract, then we look at full papers. So there are studies that you, by a single look at the title, you know that it's not relevant. Some not relevant titles, when you look at the abstract, it's actually, no, they are not what you want. And some are required to look at the full studies. And you need to record decision-making processes in a PRISM flowchart, just like the systematic review. Okay? That's encouraged lah. That's encouraged. So this is a Prisma flowchart. This is the article. It's actually a systematic review article by who is that? This is by Hanani. Is that the same Hanani asking me a question just now? From TDR. So this is a flowchart, okay, they're produced in their systematic review. So you can see that the number of articles being included in each of the search engine is tabled out. Okay, unique one, meaning that they have removed duplicate already, because if you champo is more than 600. Then after removing the duplicates, just 533. Screening, a title, abstract, review. Remove how many? Okay, and then each of the process lah. And the reason of being exclusions is also tabled out. So this is a very good example of Prisma flowchart. So you realize actually some people in the faculty already know how to do a systematic review. They have the capacity. Okay, so maybe next time we can ask them to share their experience in doing a systematic review with you all. This process, we can actually ask your EndNote to help you. Okay, so for all the students, I hope you are familiar with EndNote. I believe that the library have one copy of EndNote which you can ask from them, okay, to help to organize references. So after you search after you derive a list of articles in your Scopus or PubMed, okay, maybe hundreds of them, download the reference list from the PubMed or Scopus entirely as RIS file into your EndNote. Don't screen them first then. Don't screen them first just yet, okay? Just download everything, okay? You get 200 from Scopus, download all 200. You get 400 from PubMed, download all the 400. And then download that as RIS file, put them into EndNote, okay? They are bound to be duplicated references, okay? And you can actually delete this duplicate using EndNote functions. I'll give you an example. This is EndNote, okay? So I actually already download from 2 databases, PubMed and Scopus. You can see that there's a lot of duplicate, okay? So you can use EndNote functions, references, find duplicate. And then they'll guide you one by one, which one you want to keep. Okay, just delete one of them, okay? So when you download, you have to record a number. I got 200 from Scopus, 400 from PubMed. Okay, and then after you delete, see how many unique references are left in your EndNote. Also record down the number because you are going to use it in your flowchart. And then create groups here in your EndNote to just create groups according to your exclusion criteria. Okay, for example, I create group title irrelevant, or maybe not original articles, or maybe they use a combinations of mixture which I don't want. I want to only see monotherapy. And then you can move across each title, look at the full text if you want, or look at the title, just look at the title abstract, and move these references into your group if they fit certain exclusion criteria. So let's say I think this is not original article, so I move these references into not original. The next one, okay, maybe this is irrelevant, or maybe this is mixture, one by one. In the end, I skip the view of the references. In the end, you have the number, the reason, okay? The number and the reason exclusion appearing here. Maybe 9 is irrelevant title, 8 using mixture, which I don't want, and 14 are not original research article. And you can record this down in your Prisma flowchart. Okay, the leftover, which is 10 study in the unfiled, is the studies that you actually want to screen in full text or something like that. Or yeah, you want to include it finally in your articles. Okay, so I would say EndNote is a useful tool in helping you to screen the references. You can actually also find full text in using your EndNote, or attach your PDF into your EndNote and highlight. You can read and highlight in your EndNote. Okay, so it's quite a useful tool. Just get it from the librarian. I know EndNote is paid software, so get free from the library. I'm not sure Mendeley can do the same thing, but I'm sure Mendeley can do the same thing. But I'm not very familiar with Mendeley. I've been using EndNote all this while. So we welcome those who are using Mendeley later on to share their experience. Okay, so this is screening your studies using certain preset criteria. I cannot say what is the criteria for your own title, because each of the title might have different exclusion and inclusion criteria. But what we can say in the scoping review is that we don't exclude studies because of study type, and we don't exclude studies because of their quality of the studies. We want to include everything. When we look at the questions, QR code later. Asma asks, you create a group, but after you close EndNote, all your groups disappear. I also not sure why, but mine usually will remain Okay, mine will remain. Don't know why why yours is disappearing. Are you using the correct version of EndNote? Do you save everything? Are you using pirated version? I'm not sure. Okay. Just put if you cannot raise hand, maybe just unmute yourself and ask questions, or put it in your put in the chat. Okay, so you move on to the 4th step. Are we still on time? Okay, charting the data. Okay, and Asma also mentioned that Mendeley have options of deleting duplicates articles. Can you also create groups in your? I think Mendeley can also create groups, and also you can actually move references to the group. But what the process I mentioned to you just now is how do you make use of the software that is available to you to help you with the process of generating numbers on the Prisma flowchart, okay, systematically. And also you can actually have all your co-authors sit down together when you're doing this, okay, removing duplicates and also go through one by one, okay. If you are using Confidence, then maybe the co-author don't have to sit together to do this. They can do it at the comfort of their own rooms, okay. And then all the decision making is recorded online, but then you have to learn to use Confidence. But make no don't have to worry. Confidence have their own training module and also YouTube if you want to learn to use it, okay. But these are the sources available to you. So step 4, charting the data. So let's say in the end you already have that 10 papers or 20 papers that you want to extract data. You need to create an evidence table first using MS Word, Excel, Google Doc or Sheet, okay? Actually, this part, charting the data, is very important also for students preparing their thesis, okay? As you go through literatures. When you read, every time you read something, you need to note down something, note down the important points on the articles. You don't read and then put it aside, and then you read another article. By the time you read the third article, you already forgot what did you read in the first article. So charting evidence or charting data is actually a good habit for students who are researching or getting to know their studies, because it's when you read a lot, okay? So don't put your reading to waste. Always chart the data of the manuscript that you read. So by charting data, create evidence tables using MS Word, Excel, or Google Sheet or Docs, okay? Depend on you. Let's say if you are involved in collaborative work, okay, or you want to have the evidence table available, let's say everywhere, so better use Google Doc and Sheet, okay, so that you can know when you're free waiting for something, you can just read the article and jot down the important point in Google Sheet or Doc, okay. But the problem is that sometimes if your evidence table is very big, it might be too hard to scroll through, okay. So sometimes I chart the evidence using Google Form so that it can be exported into Google Sheet later. The item that need to be charted into the Google Doc sheet is that the authors, years of publications, study location, maybe no need, okay, interventions, comparators, duration, study, yeah, depends on the study type lah. Let's say you are studying interventions, study population or population characteristic, okay. The important characteristic of the subject need to be charted, age, sex, or BMI or other important characteristic. For, let's say, for animal studies, will be the type and number of animal used and what the intervention used, okay. Aim of study, yeah, you can put, you cannot put, it doesn't matter actually, it's not very important. Methodology, yes, how let's say you are inducing osteoporosis, what are the methods to induce osteoporosis, how the treatment are being given, at what dose, okay, and being left for how many months or weeks, okay. And outcome measure and also important result can be combined actually, so you can actually mention the outcome measure in the results. Usually I have a last column as notes or limitations to note down. Sometimes the authors will mention limitations in their studies. I'll put that in the last column, and that will be very useful when you want to identify the research gap in the study, okay. So this is me gathering evidence using Google Sheet, okay. The pro of the advantages of using Google Sheet to gather evidence is that you can edit simultaneously with your co-workers. You might want to share this with them, okay. The con is that sometimes it get very long, okay. It get very long and making editing very difficult because it's very hard to scroll through, okay. And also I want to remind you, if you were noting down your finding and transferring the information from studies to your tables or forms, remember, if possible, use your own words. Don't copy paste. Okay, I mean, some you can copy paste lah. Title, of course, you can copy paste. Okay, some important information, especially numerical information, of course, you can copy paste. But if possible, rephrase the sentences and things like that, because eventually you are not going to look back at the original article to write your scoping review or things like that. You are going to look at your table only to write your scoping review. Okay, so to avoid plagiarism, try to use your own words in transferring information like findings into your table. So this is the I was writing a review with Su Shen Tei. Su Shen Tei is actually also an alumni of Biomed FSK. His FYP supervisor is Dr. Asma, I think. Yeah. Okay. So we are collaborating on this review. So I could create a Google form and then charting this evidence together with Su Shen. So some of things, you see, the headings are very important. You look at the heading, authors, years, title, subjects. Because I'm working on this tocotrienol vitamin Alzheimer's disease. So how was tocotrienol assessed? How was Alzheimer's disease assessed, and what are the important findings? And also I have limitations to help me to identify research gap. Usually limitations, the author will mention themselves at the second last paragraph of their discussions. So it's quite important to chart down the limitations. Maybe you can look at later on. You can look at the common limitation faced by the studies, and put this as a research gap that need to be bridged in this field. As I say, sometimes this can get very long and very hard to scroll. So sometimes I also use Google Form. I create a form for myself, okay, to help me with data extractions. Okay. Pro, you can share this form with all the co-authors, and it's not too burdensome to scroll through. Okay. But you know that you want to create a form so that you have a very clear idea. You have to have a very clear idea what aspect you actually want to, what aspect of the evidence of the studies you want to extract. Okay. So the basic things are study types. I put the research and years here. Study type, study design, cross-sectional studies of prospective follow-up to 4 years. Subject characteristic, I mentioned all the subject characteristic. These are some of things. I can just click, I don't have to write. Definition I must use, syndrome use, and I chart down the findings. And the notes is for me to note down some limitations or novelty of the studies. So after I finish charting one study, I'll just click submit. Okay. At the end of the evaluations, after you have chart everything, you can export the result of the survey or the Google form into a very nice, what is this? Into a very nice, why are there people chanting at my screen? But anyway, yeah. Into a very nice Google form. You can actually directly export it, okay? Into a very nice Google form. Okay, so Google Form is a very good very good tool or effective tool for you for collaborations in data extractions as well. Okay, these are things that I'm sure you know how to use, but maybe you haven't actually think of using it in your review writing. Okay, so this is my tips for you, actually not taught in other places, but okay. Now I don't know how to remove the chanting. But anyway, this is the we look at. I'm going to show you some of the evidence table, how we made the evidence table. So in this published article, the row with, oh my goodness, did someone left their computer to
Siapa ni?
Did someone left their computer for kids? I try to escape a bit and see whether I can just eliminate this thing.
Apa dia?
I don't know why.
Hey.
Okay. Okay.
Huh? What happened?
No, I just try to escape and see whether I can remove the chonting. Okay. Okay, hilang chonting tu. Okay. So in this article, vitamin E in preventing osteoarthritis. So your evidence table, I forgot to mention to you, your evidence table is not for you to keep. You can actually attach it into your scoping review or systematic review to publish together. Okay. So it's actually a very good way of letting someone new in the research field to glance through the important studies in the field. So you have a study type. Actually, this is cross-sectional. I put it short form, cross-sectional study, researcher. You usually have the site here, okay? Research study design, subject characteristic. I mentioned here, findings and notes. Okay, maybe this I put down the limitation of the studies. This is one example. The bad point is that as a reviewer, maybe I would say, I'm commenting my own review. I would say that the finding is a bit too wordy. Okay, it might be a bit too wordy, so it's very difficult to look at. So another review, evidence table, and this we are actually determining the performance of osteoporosis assessment tool. Okay, this is produced by Shantana Subramaniam, also a alumni of Biomed Science, FSK. Okay, I seem to get a lot of Biomed Science students in my lab. But thank you. Yeah. So in this review, the important point is actually the cutoff. The values, of sensitivity and specificity and AUC and things like that. Okay, so we only chart the result in the form of values. Okay, the rest is the same, study objective of the study, study descriptions, number of subject recruited, methods and things like that. Okay, but the result, we place importance on the values, so no sentences and things like that, no descriptions. And here, this is the recent review also by me and also Gottlund. Okay, so we chart the study and also statistic design. We only focus on rodent models. Okay, all these study that we charted share similar parameters, either bone mineral density, bone microstructure, bone strength, or bone remodeling. So we sections the column of the tables to different parameters, and we chart them. Okay, and I chart them using abbreviations. Okay, the effect so here the effect of GN is equal to DS, but more than con oil, which is the negative control. Okay, so if you chart them like this using abbreviations or maybe more columned, it's more easy to the eye okay, it's not so wordy, it's not crowded. Okay, here also another studies, vitamin E as treatment for metabolic syndromes. We take studies from animals and human studies. Okay, here it's very simple. This chart is very ringkas. I'm sure that during the evidence collection process, the evidence table is much more complicated and much more wordy. But in the end, we use a simplified chart so that it doesn't look very wordy. We get rid of text. We only focus on changes induced by metabolic syndrome. Okay, so we have the usual one: animal models, diet, treatment period, and things like that. For the results, we only focus on changes, whether they are not mentioned at all, the dash, reductions, or it doesn't change. This is all we want to know. We just want to have a brief idea of what are the findings of the studies. Okay, so in this case, we get rid of the text and focus on the changes per se. Okay, because your evidence table is too wordy, sometimes you get commented by the reviewer saying that it's too wordy, it's a duplication of text, something that you have written in the text. Okay, so some of the reviewers, they don't like it. Okay, that's why we simplify into symbols. Okay, so before we move on to the next steps, I'll just have a look at the chat whether we have questions. Or if you have a question, you can ask now. I'll try to look at the chat box. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Google Form. Yes.
How about the need to register the protocol to a way of sort of do the sorting out, screening everything into one of the register? Do we need to do that kind of thing into one of the registered databases like Prospero or things like that?
It's not required. It's not required.
Not required. Huh?
Yeah, it's not required to publish. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Farah Diana asked whether can we edit the info after we submit Google Form. You edit the info in the Excel sheet. You export later lah. Okay. You can edit the info in the Excel sheet that you export later after collecting all the information Google Form. But when you submit already. Okay. Anyone else have questions? No. If no, then we move on to the next step, which is the most headache stage. Step 5, collecting, summarizing, and also reporting the results. Okay, so now you have all the evidence in the form of a table, okay, in the Excel sheet or Google sheet. So you need to, how do I say, before you write down the result, write in text form, you actually need to rearrange the table according to theme. I'm sure that as you chart down the data from the studies, you will notice certain trend in all the studies that you have charted. For example, you have noticed that in certain human studies, the relationship between variables are positive. That will be one trend. The trend or the result, you have 30% negative result, 30% positive result, and 30% no result at all. Okay, that could be one trend. Or maybe you see that the relationship is actually positive in women, negative in men, something like that. These are the trends. So you rearrange your results according to, rearrange your table according to a certain theme. Okay, it could be simply or you can rearrange all the cell culture study together first. You arrange all the animal study together first, and then you arrange all the human study together. So after you get these 3 big sections, you can further rearrange them. For example, the human study, you can arrange them according to the hierarchy of evidence. Maybe you want to tell about case control study first, and then you move on further to meta-analysis that's been done. Okay. Maybe for animal studies, you want to arrange it according to positive finding, negative finding, no relationship at all. Or maybe the cell culture study, you want to arrange it based on the mechanisms or based on the cell type. Okay, so as you go through your studies, okay, rearrange according to theme, and that will be the theme that you are going to use in writing our text. Okay, so for writing up the review, you are referring back to your table, which you have moved the abstract evidence and put in a table using your own words. So you don't have to flip back the articles. If you are still flipping back, then it's very difficult. It's very, very troublesome. So look at the, unless you have things you want to refer back. but then look at the table you have created to write out the text, following the theme that you have rearranged. Okay. So how do you want to rearrange the data? You can rearrange following thematic arrangement. So you have certain themes. Okay. For example, cell culture study first, evidence from cell culture, evidence from animal studies, evidence from human studies. And then in evidence human studies, based on your arrangement we talked just now, you can arrange it according to the trend relationship, or can arrange it based on the strength of evidence. Okay, it's up to you. For if you are doing all preclinical studies, maybe you can arrange them based on the mechanism, something like that. I can show the result. I can show the example later. Chronological order, you can chart the studies. I mean, write out the study based on chronological order, which study being done first and which study being done later. But then chronological order is like a lazy ordering. You know, there's no purpose of arranging study based on the time of publications. Is a very lazy order, unless you are actually telling the evolvement of the field across time. Yes, that is the best order, but then if not, maybe that's not the best order for you to arrange studies in your text. Okay. Theoretical and methodological, sometimes this is where you how you write about scoping review without or medical hypothesis without much direct evidence. Okay, you can write based on theories lah. This theory say that theory say that. Okay, and you can combine theories and also evidence together. So usually I use this for, let's say, these are the phenomenon seen in humans, and these are the phenomenon seen in human studies. The theoretical part is I use various mechanism to explain what is being observed in humans or animal studies. Okay, in the second part of the review. Okay, so you can also tie in with your sub-arguments that you developed earlier. Okay, we look at some example. So in this example, first author is Vaisura, also alumni of FSK Biomed program. My first master student who has graduated. So in this review article, the relationship between circulating testosterone and inflammatory cytokines in men. This is how we arrange the content. We only focus on the animals and human studies. The content are arranged based on the trend or the relationship. Okay, positive relationship between inflammation and testosterone, negative relationship, and negligible relationship, no relationship. Okay, within this three main theme, we further divide them into animal studies, evidence from animal studies, evidence from human studies, and a short summary to summarize that sections. Okay, this is one way of arrangement. Secondly, from Dr. Wong, the molecular mechanism of vitamin E as a bone protecting agent, a review on current evidence. Because we are talking about molecular mechanism as per se, and some of the mechanism are not verified, we do not have very strong mechanism. So we actually arrange them according to the proposed mechanism lah. Okay, RANK-OPG pathway, anti-inflammatory pathway, antioxidant pathway, growth factor, hormones, and microRNA. Okay. This one is also published effect of tocotrienol on bone, similar with the previous one, but this is arranged according to theories or how it actually affect bone. This one, the content is purely empirical and theory. It's a combination of empirical theory, whereby there are two main sections of this article. First is descriptions on how tocotrienol affect bone as reflected in animal studies. We divide the section based on parameters. effect of tocotrienol on bone based on bone histomorphometry, bone mineral density, bone calcium strength. In the second part, I talk about theory or mechanisms of tocotrienol on bone. These are purely putative. We do not have a strong basis for that. But then again, we say about antioxidant pathway, anti-inflammatory pathway, mevalonate suppressive pathway, and gene modulating pathway, gene modulating effect. Okay, so even within the same title, there are different way of talking about a subject. But bear in mind, okay, that the scoping review is not a regurgitation of existing informations. You are not just rewriting everything that has been published before. Okay, you need some degree of analytical skill for you to rearrange evidence according to theme. That's very important because you want to make your reader who are new in this field to come in this, to welcome them into this field and have a understanding of this field. So apart from rearranging previous study into theme, you also need to highlight breakthrough, limitations, the research gap in the field, and make comparison between the studies. Okay. So for example, if we go back to this one, let's say this one. In the short summary, let's say for this article, relationship between testosterone and inflammatory cytokines. In the short summary, sometimes we are asked by the reviewer to propose, why do you think in these sections, the studies cited in these sections will show a positive relationship? Why do you think the studies in this section would have a negative relationship? And why in these studies, it doesn't review any relationship at all? Okay? Maybe this is this part, the studies only studies about endogenous testosterone. These studies, this is about endogenous testosterone, and this is about exogenous testosterone. These could be our explanations. Okay. Sometimes we highlight this breakthrough limitation research gap in the special sections, which are usually called perspective, okay, or insight into the research field. While I summarize what are the research gaps commonly seen, after reading all the studies, what are the research gaps and the way forward in the field. For example, there's a lack of mechanistic studies on the effect of tocotrienol on bone. So in the future, we actually have to do mechanical studies using omics platform to study the effect of tocotrienol on bone. Maybe there are not enough human clinical trial to verify the effect of tocotrienol on bone in humans. So in the future, we actually have to do more clinical trial and to advance this field. Maybe all the clinical trial now are single center, very few sample size. So maybe in the future, we should advance to multi-center trial involving subject of different geography and also genetic background to assess the effectiveness of a treatment, something like that. These are some common recommendations of us in the field. Okay, so in the end, your review should be able to provide future directions, okay, to guide your readers to do their research. Okay, it's just not a summary. Also, you need some insight, and this is where you develop, or the student develop, a personal voice in the review because all this previous one is just a summary of previous experiments, but then this is where they give their own opinion, and this opinion are actually the valuable part, the most valuable part in the review, and this is what as an editor we look for in a review article. How do you provide insight into future research? Or else everyone can do a summary. From 5 students can do a summary. Yeah. But you as a researcher, what insight can you provide to your readers? Okay. We look at any chat. Okay. Slide start. Step 5. You can keluar and masuk semula and see whether it will resolve. Okay. Yeah, just keluar from the webinar and then try to log in semula and see whether it can resolve. Next is consultation. This step is actually optional. Okay, in most of the guideline for scoping review is actually optional. You can run your review, have your review seen by some expert, stakeholder, practitioners, or consumers, if your reviews are related to them, and see whether they have an opinion on in terms of perspective, what can they add to the perspective of that review. Okay, it will make a review more realistic and useful, especially for us involving in basic sciences research lah. Okay, so sometimes we need insight from practitioners, doctors, or maybe industrial stakeholders to have a look at our review and see whether it is applicable or not in the real study, in the real clinical settings and things like that. Okay, and their opinion can be incorporated into the perspective sessions. But of course, this step is optional, so it's up to you whether you want to do it or not. Okay. Okay. So you can find the guideline for writing a scoping review from this this reference. Okay, it listed all the necessary components of a scoping review. Basically, it's just like a systematic review, just minus the quality assessment part. Okay, and also list out the criteria for each of the elements. Okay, whether the title should be clear, specific, reflective of the core element. Okay, search strategy, conclusions, background, what should you mention in the background, what should you mention in the criteria, search strategy, methods, results, discussions, conclusions, and methods. Okay, so I think the list is available for you to have a look. The method of writing it out doesn't really differ from writing other review articles. Okay, just pay attention to the sections needed. Okay, so before we advance to the next, we still have some time. Okay, before we advance to some case study, okay, on how to convert chapters or proposal to publishable review, do we have any questions? Yeah. Any question from you all? You can just unmute yourself and speak or ask. Should we take 3 minutes of toilet breaks? And also enable you to move around, drink some water, go to the toilet. Before we move on to our experience on converting proposal and also chapter 2 into reviews. We'll give it 3 minutes lah, so we can just walk around, drink some water and things like that. Okay.
Hi, doctor.
Yeah, yes.
No questions so far. Everything is clear up on par till now. Thank you.
Is it beneficial for you at this moment?
Sorry?
Is the information okay, beneficial for you?
Yeah, beneficial.
Okay.
Thank you so much, doctor.
Yeah. So I'll address some of the studies here. Nubieta asks, I'm students. Let's say after finish writing, then I give to my supervisor that give recommendations. Is that considered step 6? I would say not really lah, but consultation is someone beyond your writing team. Okay. Someone apart from your writing team, in practitioner, industrial partners, and things like that. Okay. But if you want to skip step 6, is okay. It doesn't really matter. Do you limit your literature search to 10 years back? If you want to, yes. Let me answer this question first. If you want to limit your literature search to 10 years back, you need to have a good
Explanation.
not to say patient, you need to have a good justifications.
Yes.
Why do you think that 10 years back is no longer relevant?
Yes.
That
10
is,
years before.
Yeah, 10 years before. So I have partners. I have a no partner, colleague. My colleague is writing partner. My colleague are writing scoping review on the education barriers in nursing research in nursing. So in developing the protocol, we finally conclude that yeah, we should cut it maybe 5 years or 10 years. I mean, at 5 years or 10 years. Reason 5 years or 10 years. Mainly because the education environment in nursing changes a lot in the last 10 years and 5 years. There's more IoT involved, more computer and also internet searches involved, interactive teaching education strategies are involved. So these things are not available back in 10 years. 10 years back. Okay. So so if want to produce a scoping review relevant to the current stage, I mean, for people to adopt, I think then we think it's best to limit to 5 to 10 years. Or else, if there's no real good justification to limit to 5 or 10 years, maybe not. Yeah, especially when the research are quite scanty. Not many research in that field. Or sometimes maybe you can limit to 5 years because 5 years ago you have a systematic review or scoping review published on that topic. So there's a 5 years gap there. So you continue from there. Yeah, depend up to you. Okay. So can you explain the steps in writing scoping review protocol? Basically, the protocol, I would say, the protocol is the same as a systematic review. Okay. I mean, if you are referring to the methodology of the scoping review, you can adopt many aspects of the protocol in systematic review, minus the quality assessment, and you shouldn't restrict study design. You shouldn't really study design as part of your exclusion criteria, or study type, okay, or the weight of evidence. Can I confirm? Let's say we have 4 authors. All the authors will do the writing, or the other authors will only involve in screening process. This is a tricky question, I would say. Yeah. In foreign country, where they are doing systematic review as a whole, as a project, people do graduate with systematic review or meta-analysis. In UK and USA, those maybe in public health system, they graduate with a thesis on meta-analysis or systematic review. Sometimes they hire people to screen the evidence, because they got thousands of evidence. It's very complicated, so they hire people with sufficient knowledge to screen the evidence, and they pay them. Okay, if you are paying them, of course you are not you don't have to include them as the authors lah. Okay, but again, for inclusion as author, all the authors must contribute significantly lah. They don't have to actually write. Okay, some of the authors, they contribute in the intellectual input, but they don't actually write the manuscript. Okay, anything else? Nothing? Let me have a few sips of water. Okay, is everyone back from the toilet? Yeah, if you are not back from the toilet, of course you can't raise your voice and let me know.
Let's carry on.
Yeah, just carry on. From chapters, okay, it could be proposal or chapter 2, okay, to publishable reviews, okay. This is case studies. We are going to present a series of case studies on how, of my experience turning literature review of students or even my proposal into publishable reviews. So a case study, writing our original research articles and review at the same time. Kenapa banyak salah ni? Okay, but anyway, this happened during the RMCO. So I was going to complete a manuscript association between Mendelian syndrome and bone mineral density among Malaysians. I have the data already. I just need to analyze the data and then write out a nice manuscript to be published. Okay. At the same time, I need to plot through all the relevant literatures related to this topic. Okay, because you know that you need to compare and contrast your studies with the previous studies. Okay, you also need to, in the discussion, and also you need to mention to the readers what are the similar studies that has been conducted before in the introduction sections. That's why you need to go through all the relevant literature related to this topic. So I search Scopus and PubMed using the keywords Mendelian syndrome and bone or fracture or osteoporosis, like I've shown you just now. And I download all the reference lists from both databases and organize them using EndNote, like I've shown just now. And I want to get the evidence. Actually, the form that I showed you just now is the form I use to write this article. Okay. It's a Google form. I enter I do data extractions. Take a few weeks during the RMCO. And my readings and notes are organized nicely in the Google Sheet. Okay, so that's why for beginner students, for students who are just embarking on your research review, and also for postgraduate students, don't just read and forget about what you have read. Okay, read and note down the findings, note down what you have read in an organized form. Okay, so that's being kept in your computer or in your cloud drive, and you can continue to add on to the things you have read, and these informations will be very valuable later in your writing or discussions or introductions. Okay, don't just read and forget and highlight and then you forget everything, and then when you want to write, you have to flip through every journals that I've gone through. Okay, read and note down the findings. That's what I want you to know, the important, even if you are not writing for a review at this stage. So I complete the studies. I write out all the studies. I cite the relevant studies in the introduction discussion sections of the I cite all the relevant studies in this introduction discussions. But then I have a nice table. I have a nice table evidence. Okay, I will use it to publish this original research article. Okay, it was published recently. Positive association between Mendelian syndrome and bone mineral density among Malaysians is original research article. But what about that 20 or 30 articles that I read and I have used in the introductions and discussions? I use the material to write reviews. Okay, transform it into this review. Okay, with a very specific objective. I want to know the relationship between Mendelian syndrome and bone health, evaluation, epidemiological studies, and mechanism involved. And this article is currently in press. Okay, so by doing one job, okay, it can actually produce 2 different manuscript types. Okay, you can produce 2 papers. And there goes your KPI for your PhD or your master. Yeah. Okay. So in this review, if you look at the title alone, this is empirical evidence what are the what's observations. Okay, first part of the review is observations from epidemiological studies on the relationship between mental syndrome and bone health. The second part are the theoretical part. What are the mechanisms involved? Some of the mechanisms are very well established, some are not. Some are just speculative. Okay, so this is how we arrange the title. Arrange the scoping review. This is actually a scoping review. Second case study. I'm preparing a proposal. Okay, I was actually preparing a proposal for on the supplementation of tocotrienol on osteoarthritis in the rat model osteoarthritis. Now, as you want to prepare a proposal, you're interested in one study, you're preparing your FRGS proposal. Okay, you need to read through all the relevant literature. You need to update your knowledge on the relevant field before you can start writing your proposal, right? Again, you start with reading the literature, noting down all the relevant studies in your Google form or Google Sheet. Okay. After compiling all the studies, note that the research gap, and the research gap become your what you want to do in your studies, proposed studies. The leftover material, you can use it to generate a review to highlight the how do I say, to highlight the phenomenon and what are the progress we need to achieve if you will want to advance this research field. Okay, and that's actually what you propose in your proposal lah. But just be careful lah, what you write here, sometimes some other people would take notice and then they will actually do the same study because you have proposed it. So this review actually helped me to write the introduction discussion of the research paper. So after okay, this is a third case study here. Miss Faizura Muhammad actually is my first master student as after I become a lecturer, and currently she's doing a PhD with me. Her thesis title: Effect of anatole tocotrienol on bone in a rat model of osteoporosis induced by buserelin. So as a student, if you were to write the chapter 2 for this thesis title, you will say about what is osteoporosis, what is osteoporosis induced by buserelin, what is the clinical importance, what is tocotrienol, and what is the effect of tocotrienol on bone. Okay, these are some of the subheading that would appear in your chapter 2, right? And from this chapter 2, we split the subheading into very concise, definite research questions, and then we convert Vaisura's literature reviews into review papers. First part: what is male osteoporosis? What is the effect of because buserelin eventually leads to testosterone deficiency in her model. So what are the effect of testosterone? What are the relationship between testosterone and bone health? Okay, but this is actually a narrative review lah, because the scope of this review is quite large, so it's not too large to do a scoping review. So we just mention all the relevant and important references rather than all references in this review. This is more like a scoping review where Vaisura reviewed the effect of buserelin as a form of androgen deprivation therapy on bone health status. What the effect of buserelin treatment on bone health status in men. Okay, and then later on we review the vitamin E. Okay, the use of vitamin E as a bone protecting agent. Okay, so from her chapter 2, she derived 3 review papers already. Okay, and this is accomplishable. You just need to find the right journals to publish this review. Okay, that's an important thing.
The GForce Gallery.
Okay. And this is a Ms. Vaisura research paper. Okay, so by writing that review, it helped her to familiarize with the research in this field, and he can cite this previous studies into her research paper. He can cite even her own reviews in her research papers. Okay.
Dr. Gabriel.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned from this Miss Vaisura's literature review, right? I just now I heard that you took one part and make it narrative review, one part you make it as scoping review. Can you repeat again, like what made you decide, okay, this should go narrative, this should go scoping? Thank you.
Because let's say at the part where I do a narrative review is the review of testosterone and bone health. So this topic is too wide. It's too wide. There are too many research being done in this research topic. So we can't really cite everything under the we can't really cite every studies under this topic. It's too huge. So we only pick out the relevant and most important studies here and make a narrative review. So it's not much of we didn't declare any such strategy in this paper. Rather, is just do a narrative review lah. But the other I would say the other research topic are quite limited. The scope are quite well defined. You don't really you can't actually find many research on that particular topic. So it's very very well defined and very limited in scope. So this is suitable for scoping review. Now you get 10 or 20, almost 25 references on that topic. Yeah.
Dr. Kok Yong Chin.
I see. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Kok Yong Chin.
Yeah.
You know, your second review article, The Molecular Mechanism of Vitamin E as Urban Protecting Agent, a review on current evidence. It may look like systematic. Not from the title.
Yeah.
What systematic? I mean, it can divert into systematic reviews, isn't it? I mean, you are appraising the effectiveness of a therapy, isn't it?
This is the molecular mechanism, right? Sorry, is it the second one? The effect of androgen deprivations, right? Yeah.
It sounds like it may have the potential to do systematic review, but why you choose to do? What makes you choose to do this thing, a review without systematic review?
Because one of the reasons is that the studies included are quite heterogeneous, and it is difficult for us to assess the quality of the studies. It's quite difficult for us to engage with to assess the quality of the studies. So without the quality assessment, we do not dare to claim a systematic review is a systematic review. Rather, we might want to keep it as a scoping review. I know there are some systematic review published without quality assessment, but the word systematic review is questionable if you don't do a quality assessment. Did I answer your questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
And then another case study. This is by Dr. Wong Sok Kwan. So her thesis title: The Effect of Tocotrienol in a Rat Model of Bone Loss Due to Metabolic Syndrome. So you can see three parts here. Actually, tocotrienol. Actually, three parts: bone loss induced by metabolic syndrome. What is the relationship between bone loss and metabolic syndrome, and the effect of tocotrienol on bone loss, and the effect of tocotrienol on metabolic syndrome? There are actually three things that she could write. Dr. Wong Sok Kwan is currently a contract lecturer in our department. Okay, with a background of biochemistry in UKM Publication Talk. Okay. So what we plan is actually the relationship between metabolic syndrome and osteoporosis, a review, This is scoping because we include studies from animals and humans and everything. Also, there are some mechanism study as well. Okay, so we study everything about this Miller syndrome of osteoporosis. And here also animal models of Miller syndrome review. So we actually summarize all the Miller syndrome model, animal models and Miller syndrome. It could be genetic, it could be dietary, okay, and things like that. Yeah, and then this vitamin E as a potential treatment for Miller syndrome, evidence from animals and human studies. So we include everything, okay, that shows that vitamin E is a potential therapy for Miller syndrome from animal and human study, and also we have some cell studies, but we include as mechanisms. Okay. And the end, these are the research paper published by Dr. Wong. Okay. She's I'm not sure whether she's here. Maybe she's here. Yeah, she's actually an extremely good writer. even though she originated from a different field in the degree years. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Guan is there. Okay. Okay. So this is some of the case study I want to share with you. So the reason of sharing this case study is actually to show you that this is achievable and this has been done. Okay. From proposal to review, from chapter 2 to review, it is possible to be done. Okay, and it is a very good way for the students to get in touch with this particular field. Okay. So I think you should encourage your students to write scoping review in preparing his proposal or in preparing his thesis chapter 2. Okay, so that the students have a very good bird eye view on the research field, and they may be able to come up with a good research question themselves or the research gap themselves. Okay. So basically, that will be our sharing for this morning sessions. Okay. Yeah. So the rest is just photo. These are my department members from Department of Pharmacology. These are my bone metabolism group members. Okay. We have clinicians, forensics, basic scientists, orthopedicians, anatomy. Dr. Das also is a very good writer in the Department of Medicines. 2 weeks ago, he showed me that he has 500 index items in those Scopus or WOS. It's the most prolific writers in the medical faculty. Yeah, also very experienced. Currently, she's a publication coordinator in the Faculty of Medicine. This is our lab. Prof. Ima is my mentor. Okay, also mentor to Sokwon. Waizura, this is Waizura. This is Wan Raini. I'm not sure Wan Raini is a biomed alumni or not. Yeah. And these are also some of my students and interns. Okay. I'm not sure whether does any one of you remember Yok Yue? Yok Yue is also an alumni of Biomed Science FSK. She initially joined as a master for my FRGS project, but later on I encouraged her to apply YDPA research scholarship, and she actually got the YDPA research scholarship, and they asked them to leave my study and go to UK to further her master. So you should be proud because FSK itself produced a lot of talented alumni. Self-promoting, but whatever. Okay. But thank you for listening. Okay, I'm very proud to be back to FSK and do my part to to share my experience with you all. So any questions, any feedback, anything to share actually? Yeah, because I'm sure some of you have some writing experience also, and maybe you want to share your writing experience. with this, or any difficulty in writing? Okay, anything you want to share? Any questions? Just a moment, there are some. I can share the the whole presentation. Doesn't matter. I can mail to Kak Rahida or to Prof. Siti Balkis, and they will pass the slide to you. Okay. Dr. Razina say it's very hard for me to focus on writing review because my aim in teaching. Can you share some tips? I think the problem is we share the same problem lah. A lot of things. I mean, the university want us to do a lot of things. So sometimes you just need to go back home 1 hour later, let's say between 5 to 6, to create a peaceful environment where people will not bother you, so that you can just read and write. Sometimes you have to sacrifice some time at night, or you have to sacrifice the weekend to write. I'm currently single, so I can't really compare my difficulty to your difficulty, where you have to take care of children and things like that. I think it's more challenging for you for people with family. Okay, so just find time to create alone time, me time, for you to concentrate and write, or to review and read your students' papers. That's quite important lah. But it is a sacrifice. That's why I say in the beginning of my slides that you really need a strong reason. Why do you need to achieve those numbers? Okay, is it for yourself? Is it for your students? Is it for your staff? Is it for the KPI University? Something relevant to you. Okay. Dr. Siti Fatia asked to share some writing tips. How do you achieve all the writing on top of lab work? I mean, teaching works and stuff. Okay. If you don't mind, I do have a complete slides on that. If you don't mind, I can share with you maybe at 2:30 later. We just use half an hour to share about how do you motivate yourself to write on top of your existing task lah. Okay, is it okay? So if you want to know tips to motivate yourself to write, come back at 2:30 and we'll share the slides on motivations. Okay. Experience we reject papers. Me reject other people's papers, or my paper being rejected? Ashira. The voice is too, how to say? Yeah. Just check. About rejection, paper rejection, Ashira, maybe I will also share in the motivation slide itself also, okay, at 2:30, okay, because there are much thing to talk about that actually, yeah. But if you are not here in 2:30, what I can say is that I have a funny way to put it lah. Rejection from journal editor will never be harsher than rejection from your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Okay, if you can handle rejection from your boyfriend, girlfriend, it shouldn't be harsher than that. Okay, just be thick skin, take the rejections don't take the rejection as something very personal. Take the rejections, improve the manuscript based on the comment if there are comment being provided, and then submit to another manuscript. Okay. Is you suspect that your review paper being plagiarized and published at the same time when we submit for publications, I need you to elaborate further on the situation. Where do you think the person who plagiarized your paper got your paper? Okay, before I can answering that. Okay, where do you leak out the paper? Is it from during the review stage or something like that? Or else you can tell me more about it during at 2:30. So you got rejected, and then a similar paper is published. Published in where? Is it an index in journal? You can. It's very hard to prove actually, but you can actually. And he got published before you, right? You can actually run the. You can actually run a Turnitin test to see how closely similar between your article and his. And if you can prove that your article is being submitted to a journal much earlier than this one, that will be better. But it's a very difficult case to prove. Yeah. We are not sure what happened, but it could be that the article was leaked out during the peer review stage, and then they plagiarized your review. But we need to show some proof first before you can alert the journal who actually published the article. Hello Satira, congratulations of being promoted as a DS54, and also to Prof Ismail if Prof Ismail is here. To the anonymous user, also maybe you want to discuss this with Prof Palkis as well. If there is a publication coordinator in your faculty, also need to discuss this with the publication coordinator. Okay, because it's a tough case to prove. Okay, so my advice to you is to prove that you similarity index, and then you actually submit earlier than this guy who published it. Okay, so if there is nothing much, I think we can end this session here, and then you come back at 2:30. Okay. So just to let you know, maybe at 2:30 we will start just a half an hour sharing to how to motivate yourself to write. Okay, to survive this publish and perish game, and then we are followed by Q&A until finish. Okay, thank you. Everyone have a good lunch. Okay. So enjoy your lunch, everyone. I'll see you at 2:30.